Hey, Guardian, in this episode, I have a very special pair of guests whose podcast I've admired for some time now, and the timing couldn't be any better as we prepare to face the witness in just a couple weeks. We will hear their destiny and podcasting beginnings, as well as understand what is the witness and what role will it or they play in the final shape. We might go down some rabbit holes on this one, so buckle up. You ever wonder what makes a great gamer? Great gaming is not only about cheering on our teammates, but also being there to pick us up when we're down.
Guardian down!
Have you ever played Destiny with a fellow Guardian and thought to yourself, I wonder what their life is like? Questions like these spark conversation, friendship, and community. We're a Destiny 2 podcast that focuses on three things: community, news around the gaming industry and Destiny 2, and thought-provoking topics in the game. We're Guardian Downcast. Your stories, your community, your destiny. What's up, Guardian? Welcome to episode 252 of Guardian Downcast, the Destiny podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Todd the Gator, and I'm a day one Guardian who loves gaming and especially the Destiny franchise, and we talk about it. In this episode, I'm very excited as we have two brand new guests of the show that have a very interesting podcast as well. They have a very unique dynamic explaining the vast lore that is the Destinyverse. Tonight, I want to know more about them as Guardians and also what made them want to do a lore podcast. You and the community have sent me requests for them to be on the show, and they both agreed to stop by and talk to us tonight. I want to get to know more about them as Guardians and also what made them want to do a lore podcast. You and the community have sent me requests for them to be on the show, and they both agreed to stop by and talk to us tonight. So please welcome the two hosts of Myths and Stories podcast. That's Mythborn and Ztories. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you doing tonight?
Hey there,
Doing great.
doing well. Yeah,
Awesome.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's going to be a great show, guys. I've been giddy all day, and we're going to get into it. Well, before we do that, here's what's on today's show. We're first going to hear about Myth and Ztories' Destiny journey and also about their podcast. We'll also be asking them questions from our community that they posted in our Discord. Then for our topic of the week, we're all going to discuss who is the witness? Why are they here? And what role are they going to play as we approach the final shape? And lastly, as per my contract with our space attorney Laz, he stopped by with his roundup of complaints from our Discord community. So if we're all ready, let's roll. Hey, thanks for listening to Guardian Downcast. There are several ways you can contact us. First, you can find us on X at Guardian_D_cast. Or you can find us on our Instagram channel at Guardian Downcast and see what pics and reels that I and our podcast guests want to share with you guys. You can send us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/Guardian Downcast, email at guardiandowncast@gmail.com. But if you just want to do it all in one spot, check out our new website. Just visit guardiandowncast.com. You can find all our contact info, leave us a voicemail, give us our show rating and review, search for any past episodes, or even get back to our community. Also, don't forget to sign up for future updates to the show, where we'll also have random drawings throughout the year, and you may win a gift card or even some Guardian Downcast merch. Our community thrives on interaction, so get involved and check us out. And later, Guardian. Well, Myth and Ztories, man, I hope I keep that name. I'm really trying, Z. I'm trying to keep that name good tonight. I want to call it something else.
I'll make it easier for you. You can just do Zor.
Zor.
I am okay with Zor.
Oh, I like that. Okay, good deal. Well, thank you for that. That'll make my job easier tonight. Well, Myth and Zor, let me start with you, Myth. Where are you from, and what do you do, sir?
Yeah, so I am from the great state of Michigan. the place of everlasting snow, it seems.
In July.
Yes. But my main job outside of wonderful podcasting world is I work in the IT industry, specifically for higher education. Wear a lot of hats, but closest approximation would be something like a system administrator.
Wow, nice. So you work for the colleges and stuff. That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Zor? What about you? Where are you from? What do you do, sir?
Well, I was born and raised in Texas. Moved up to Iowa, so I live in Iowa now. Okay. So I get to join the cold north as well. I like it though. I love the cold.
Okay.
Currently, I'm a stay-at-home dad.
Awesome.
I've been that way for about 10 years or so now. Yeah, I was in the Army for a little bit. Worked on radars. I was in telecommunications for a little bit. Worked on networking, server stacks and stuff like that. I have to laugh. I do a lot of hardware stuff, whereas like my wife, she does a lot of software stuff.
Oh, okay. Very nice, man. That's cool. Oh man, raising your kids. That's gonna be. And I was gonna ask you guys. You guys apparently are married, have kids.
Say married here, no kids, outside of the furry ones, at least.
Oh, they're kids. Trust me. Perpetual
married. Absolutely. Married here, one kid from my previous marriage, okay. And two kids from with my current marriage, and one grandkid, as well as 7 fur babies.
Wow, a grandpa! I'm gonna be a grandpa in a few weeks. I can't wait.
It's a trip, man.
I don't know. I honestly don't know what to think. I really have never been in this situation before, so I'm sure I'm gonna love it. But
play video games with a man. Start them off young.
You worry. They're going to be a warlock main before you know it. Trust me.
Hell yeah. Mine loves playing Minecraft. So we play a lot of Minecraft when he's over.
Relive our childhoods, man. That's the way to do it.
Hell yeah.
I love it. Well, Speaking of video gaming, I'll start with you, Myth. Where did you start, man? When did it all begin for you with video games?
Oh man, it began really early for me. The earliest moment I can remember is actually at daycare. I don't know, like 5, 6, something like that. And they had an original NES console there with the cartridges for Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt and Metroid. And I just remember sitting there whenever I was given the opportunity and just playing my little heart out. So that's kind of where it all began.
What about you, Zor? Same for you?
Yeah, I'd say pretty similar. I had a best friend growing up, and he had a Game Boy, and so he had Zelda: Link's Awakening, and that was my go-to game every time that if he was over at my house or I was over at his, that's what I was playing. And the specific thing that I remember from that is the second dungeon. In order to get into the second dungeon, you have to go pick up Bow Wow, the little dog from the main village.
Right.
And you have to go to a certain screen and let him eat one of the plants. I didn't realize that for almost like 8 months. So I spent 8 months of that game just wandering around. And this is between like the first and second dungeon. So you only have like, a 12th of the map unlocked. So like that was my playtime of just wander around aimlessly for 8 months.
That was always the cool thing about the early games, though. There were no cheat codes. There was no
internet.
There wasn't. It was like, here's the game. Good luck. And, then they, of course, had the, Nintendo, magazines and stuff that started giving you help with where to go and stuff. I remember those days. But yeah, it was pretty much you're on your own, buddy. Good luck. And there's no going to YouTube. Oh, well, how do I get through this level? No, it don't work that way. Yeah. Well, how did you guys find this game called Destiny? Start with you, Myth.
Yeah. So it was, I think I probably stumbled into Destiny, in a way a little different than most, just in that I had never played a Halo game before.
Me neither.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, like I had heard about Bungie. I knew their reputation with Halo, but I didn't have that like instant nostalgia factor.
Right.
But I remember, I was a longtime WoW player, World of Warcraft. I had ended up leaving that at the end of Cataclysm. It was a year or two later, bouncing between single player games and Call of Duty and that kind of thing. And I remember the 2014 E3 where they showed the trailer for Destiny. And just like everything they showed ticked all the boxes for me. And unlike Halo, because I didn't have an Xbox, I only had a PlayStation. It was on a console I actually had. So I remember I like signed up for that alpha registration as soon as I could, and was lucky enough to get into that, and then just never stopped.
I'm biting my tongue now because that's exactly how I found out. Didn't they have it in 2013 too? And then I found out the game wasn't going to be released for a whole year. I was so bummed, man. I could have sworn 2013 they had some kind of teaser or something, but 2014
they might have.
E3 was the bomb.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I remember I used to always I had all the times set up like, okay, this is when this showcase is. This is when this showcase is. And I would just be glued to whatever the next big thing was that was coming out.
It was just such a new thing, right? It was something I'd never seen before. It was so cool. And just the general, I don't know what it was, the general UI or the font was so refined and futuristic. It just... And at that time, there truly wasn't anything else like Nothing. It was the newest thing, man. I mean, it was a breakthrough, but, sorry, I will go down a rabbit hole if you let me. Zor, what about you, man? How did you find Destiny, man?
My story is not as elegant. I feel like y'all got me pegged on this one.
Sorry, I miss my brother now, so sorry, man. My Destiny brother.
I like it. No, the summer before Taken King, I was at my buddy's house down in Texas, and he had the game, and he was trying to poke me to get it. I didn't have a PS4 at the time, and so he was like, "Hey, why don't you try it out on my console?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine." So I tried it out, loaded up a Warlock, thought, "Holy shit, what is this?" Like Myth said, what both y'all said, there was nothing like it before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was an old school WoW player, and it was totally different, but it still felt familiar to me. Like I was still, casting spells, in the ways of grenades and supers and melees and stuff.
Yeah.
But then I also got a gun, and I was like, sweet, this is awesome. And so I played it a little bit there for maybe a week or so. And while we were there, he was playing on his account in the evening, and he got a random invite, and he joined a group, and I didn't realize it until way later on. Somebody randomly invited him to Vault of Glass. He had never run a raid before ever, and he shows up, and there's this shield in front of him. He's like, "What does this do?" And he goes and picks it up, and it starts the Templar fight.
Oh my God.
And it's like, oh my God. So that was my first what is Destiny? It's my buddy in a random room with a random group doing a random thing going, what the hell is this?
So you're a Taken Tot.
I am a Taken Tot. Okay. As soon as I got home from that vacation, I instantly went and pre-ordered the Taken King PS4. So the whole, that was the PS4. That was when I got my PS4 was the white Taken King with the gold filigree on it, all that stuff. And
nice.
So yeah, that was my intro to Destiny was there. And like Myth, I've stuck with it ever since.
Yeah, it's safe to assume that we've all drank the Kool-Aid on Destiny. Oh yeah. I've been called Destiny shill forever, and I'm embracing it. So I don't care. Now I'm just curious, before you guys found Destiny, what were you playing at the time? Where did you come from? You remember?
Yeah.
I know it's been 10 years.
So, definitely World of Warcraft was a big part leading up to that.
Right.
And I fell off with Mists of Pandaria, for WoW. And then just a lot of really started getting into some of the single player games, for PlayStation at the time, the Uncharted series. That kind of thing. And really the only online game I played, was Call of Duty that I can remember. Yeah. And that was less, Call of Duty was a great time. I don't play it anymore because I don't necessarily subscribe to that anymore. But,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's like, why don't you
There's no room.
why don't you play in the new Modern Warfare 3? I just play Destiny. Yeah.
That's all we do now.
Was that what you came from, Zor? From Call of Duty as well?
Not Call of Duty. I've only ever played Call of Duty maybe, for 3 months while I was on active duty.
Okay.
All the other guys wanted to play it, and so I went and bought a 360 specifically so we could all play Call of Duty, and then we all deployed at different times, and so after 3 months they were all gone, and I was like, okay, well, I'm selling this. So
I got you.
But for me, WoW was definitely a staple for a long time. We kind of jumped around from WoW, Diablo, basically stuck inside the Blizzard suite for years,
Gotcha.
It seems like.
Okay.
And then, a little Metal Gear, little Final Fantasy here and there.
Oh yeah. Metal Gear, baby.
Those are, I love me some Metal Gear, man.
Yep. My wife and I that was our nightly, when we first got married, that's how we entertained ourselves, as she would watch me play the missions. Yeah, the original Metal Gear.
My wife wouldn't watch because I like to headshot, and she's like, "That's too much for me." And I'm like, "Okay." I do like a good sniping position, especially like Metal Gear 5. It's funny. The Taken King PlayStation that came out 2 weeks after Metal Gear 5, but I bought Metal Gear 5 day one. So for 2 weeks, I had a PS4 game that I couldn't play. Just sat on the shelf till I got my PS4. But yeah, World of Warcraft was actually how my wife and I met too. So that was
very cool.
So I met her during Wrath of the Lich King, and then like we've been together ever since.
Yeah, we have a mod in our Discord community who used to be I don't know if he might still do it, but he used to run WoW communities and put raids together, and was like the raid. I don't know what they call him, the raid game master or whatever. I don't know. But
that's essentially what I was, raid leader of multiple raids. And then when my wife joined up, we were just like, all right, well, we have a permanent 2 for sure.
Yeah, I can see Nico right now. He's got the bull horns. Yeah, I can see it now. Yeah. Cool deal, man. Well, speaking of Destiny, when we started playing this game, do you guys have like a favorite memory that comes to mind back when you first started playing, or even during we've all been doing it for a long time now, but is there a memory that just sticks out that just is one of your favorites?
Yeah. So I have a few, of course, that are like,
of course,
those awesome moments.
Yes.
But I'll say the one that will probably stick with me the most is less about the content happening in the game and more about the social aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
I was a solo player for a very long time. I never ran the original Vault of Glass because I just didn't have anyone to run it with. And LFG wasn't something I was really wanting to do at that time. So my big memory was actually just after I had joined up with my current clan, which is is where Zor and I met originally.
Okay.
And this was during the season of Arrivals, where they had that huge, very similar to what we're in now, that large expanse of just a whole lot of nothing.
We can call it what it is. We can call it a content drought. It was. This is a safe space. We understand that Bungie has those things, and we understand that Bungie has those things, but we stay up spirited about it.
I try not to think about those days. They were rough. I think I made like 10 alt accounts just playing with different things. But yeah. So what?
Oh, I know. Yeah. So, but during this time of season Arrivals, they did this thing where they opened up all of the raids and made them just infinitely farmable, because all the Leviathan raids were going away after Arrivals when Beyond Light came out.
Yeah.
And I had recently joined this clan. I had kind of gotten in because someone I knew someone I worked with actually knew these guys. So I joined up, and the mission at that time was, we're going to flawless every raid before it goes away. And every night we would run those Leviathan raids, sometimes like 3 times in a night if we had it down and we were going fast enough. And I remember Crown of Sorrow on one of those runs.
You're about to call me out, aren't you?
I'm not gonna tell that story. But we had run it so many times that we all, like, it was muscle memory. We knew our positions, we knew the timing of things, and it was mostly just like, don't blow yourself up with a rocket in order to get flawless or pass the jumping puzzle.
Specifically mountaintop.
Specifically mountaintop.
Don't blow yourself up with mountaintop.
But so we did our run, passing the buff, kiting the Galrons for anyone familiar with Crown, making our usual call outs the whole time. And we finished the fight. It wasn't our flawless run on that one, but we finished it out. And only after we finished and collected loot did we realize that neither Zor nor I could hear each other for that entire fight. For whatever reason, our voice chat was acting up, and we specifically couldn't hear each other, but it was working for everybody else, which would have been a problem since we were partnered up for that section of the room.
In the last encounter, you were buddies?
Yeah, we were partnered up for it.
Wow.
But we were so in sync and so down to muscle memory that even though we had zero communication, we didn't even notice until the end.
Wow.
And I just remember coming away from that. Yeah, I remember coming away from that and being like, I went from solo player to feeling like part of a well-oiled machine. And it was a really cool feeling.
Outstanding. Wow. That is a great memory, man. Zor, do you have something different?
It's from the same raid. I thought he was going to call me out on this, and I was like, shit, I'm going to have to pick a new memory. I just have 2 words. Crystal somewhere.
Oh.
And myth will know exactly what that means. So I guess I have 2 memories then. One is crystal somewhere. While we were trying to do our flawless raids, I kept hearing the sound for the crystal spawning. And at the time, I didn't realize that there was a rotation to it. I didn't realize, it'd spawn here, then it'd move clockwise, and it would spawn here. I heard the sound go off, and I was like, crystal somewhere. And so every time I heard the sound, I would just say into the mic, crystal somewhere. And after a while, after about the 10th or 11th call out, somebody else came in and was like, you realize we all hear that sound, right? Like, we all know that there's a crystal somewhere. And so then for like months, it was just like, that was my thing, was like, they would be like, here's a call out, crystal somewhere, whatever. Yeah. But no, I think my favorite memory is more related to myth, in the fact that the very first memory I have of myth is, we were at the bottom, we were at the start of the jumping puzzle for, I believe it was Eater of Worlds, where you had to do the leapfrog, in like the mire down there.
That was brutal.
And, I had a special rocket that I never took off because I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And that's Two-Tailed Fox.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been using Two-Tailed Fox since way before it was cool to use Two-Tailed Fox.
So I take it you have the catalyst.
Absolutely. 100%. Like day one the catalyst came out, got that.
I'm just like, give this man a catalyst.
Absolutely. And I asked for it. Like, I kept saying, I was like, just give me a 3rd rocket. Just give me the 3rd rocket. And then they did it. And I was like, done, set. I'm done. Well, on the back of another Guardian in that group, was another Two-Tailed Fox. And that other Guardian was Myth.
What?
So we're the only 2 that were using Two-Tailed Fox. Great way minds. The hell back then.
Great mind.
And so then, absolutely. Well, and then Myth showed me at some point in time, I don't know how long ago it's been, someone in the Destiny community for Movie of the Week put together a anime theme song for the lore card on Two-Tailed Fox. And so the whole thing is like, overflowing power kitsune. And it's like this super cute, cool theme. And so then I took that rocket everywhere. We go into PvP. I'm shooting the rocket. Every time I got a kill, it was like kitsune. And that was the call out all the time. So yeah, that's, yeah.
I love it. It kind of has it has those anime, symbols on it stuff. So it makes sense.
It does.
Oh, for sure.
I love it.
I'm not a big anime fan, but I definitely could picture that on the rocket. So
it's definitely in there. That one and Jade Rabbit, I think, has the same.
Yeah, it does.
They got kind of the same little symbols all over them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't like that pink. I'm sorry. I'm not a pink guy. I don't like the pink ornament. I put it on the other one. This is a 2-part question, or it's actually a merged question. You can answer either or on this one. But what character or NPC in the game do you like the most, or do you see yourself like the most?
Ooh. I know mine.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I got to think.
For me, it's Asher Mir.
Guardian.
Of course.
I love that little asshole. Like, everything about him, he's so convinced he's the smartest man in the room, and he always uses words that are way beyond anyone else around him. That doesn't, like, he doesn't need to talk that level of sophistication or technological speaking. Mm-hmm. Like, he could keep it simple, but he wants to show off. He wants to let everyone know that I'm better than all of you around here. But then, like, when shit hits the fan, he's a little scared. Like, he's not fully sure, like, what's going on around him. One of my favorite entries is the one that starts off, says Asher Mir, the scientist that he was, the first thing he did was shoot the damn thing. And that was when the pyramids first showed up to Io.
Right.
The first thing he did was shoot a rocket at it just to see, for science. And to me, like, I love science. I love science and math and all that. So, like, Asher, to me, he's just the right amount of asshole versus smarts. And, like, I love him. And then, of course, when the mission of the lake, the Lady of the Lake mission for his Excalibur came, I lost my mind. Like, I had to have it. It doesn't leave my inventory. His ghost shell is in there too. Like, I love Asher.
Yeah, when I heard the voiceover in that, I was like, "What? Wait, was that Asher Mir?"
So good.
Yeah,
so
cool.
good.
What about you, Myth? You think of one?
Yeah. So yeah, I have an answer for both as far as who do you like the most and which do you maybe see yourself the most as. So as far as who I like the most as an NPC, if I have to pick a singular person from them, I guess Mara is the obvious choice, but more appropriately, the Awoken people in general.
Yeah.
Their origin story. Oh, I know. It is absolutely one of my favorites. And honestly, it is in that position where you could remove the entirety of, like, the Mara Senna lore book from Destiny, and it would still make for its own killer space opera all on its own.
You could do a whole live action series on just the Awoken people. It's amazing what they had to go through.
You could do 24 straight hours of Awoken lore.
I've been putting this out. I've been putting this out into the world that Destiny, or so much Destiny lore written in this game that forget Fallout. A Destiny show would write itself. Mm-hmm. There's so much lore, so many stories. But I digress. What was your other answer, Myth?
Yeah, so as far as an NPC that I see myself like the most, I guess if I had to pick one, I would say Osiris.
Okay.
Mainly because he has this very analytical approach to how he views the world.
Yeah.
And I find myself often looking at things in a similar way. And actually, a fun example of this, which kind of ties into more raid memories. We were running the day one for Root of Nightmare, and our group got stuck in the planet room for hours. And eventually we took a food break and just, like, let people cool off and come back to it fresh. But before coming back, Zor, myself, and two of our other clanmates, we stayed in that planet room and we went through piece by piece to learn how everything in that room ticked.
Wow.
We tested out, like, all right, if I kill this ad, what happens? Or, all right, we kill, like, the Centurions, that spawns the Colossus. Is there also a timer we have to be worried about? Or can we just be here forever until we kill them? And really trying to, like, figure out what the triggers were for different things.
Right.
And just going through that kind of analytical process. And we got stuff mapped out and figured out. And the group came back together, and I think it took us like 2 or 3 more attempts with that info, and we were able to finally beat that encounter. So,
wow. I always tell Myth I'm in love with his brain.
I love that. I love going through the progressions. I love that. If you're soloing raids and stuff, you have to know all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Cool. That's pretty cool. I like that.
And that was all day one. So that was with contest mode on that we sat there and was like, let's break it down. Let's try to figure this out.
Okay. I have a few qualifying questions here to see if you're cool or not. And I'll start with this. Myth and Zor, do you guys do bounties?
So this is a double-edged question for us.
A little bit.
So, I will do them when there is a objective I'm looking to accomplish with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like hoard bounties for, the XP grind at the beginning of a season or things like that. We have a member in our clan, who is on the very opposite side of that spectrum.
63 slots worth of bounties.
Wait, it's 65. Oh, I mean, I didn't know anything about that. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's 65, by the way. If you get rid of all that stuff. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that is a level of preparation that I totally respect, but do not engage with myself.
We have this argument every week in the Discord. People who say, well, you're just going to get there anyway. Why are you hoarding them? I'm like, well, because I want to get power. I want to get my artifact unlocked, and it looks like we're going to have another artifact. So, all right.
Yep.
What about you, Zor?
I'm the opposite. I haven't done a bounty in like 3 years.
Oh, man. But you're a warlock, right?
Okay. Sort of.
I'm trying to like you, Zor. I'm trying, man.
Our community has called me out and told me I am a secret Titan because I like to punch things, I like shotguns, and I like swords, I like close combat. Right. And then the other half of our community tells me I'm a secret hunter. So I think I'm just a whatever.
I think we have a question about that tonight. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
But yeah,
awesome.
I will do bounties, for specific events or something like that, like especially if there's like something that requires a rep grind or something like that. So,
right.
But I won't hoard them out like the thing going on right now, the
hoarding
into the light. Yeah. But the Shax reps, all of his bounties give Shax reps. So I'll pick those up, but I'll pick and choose which ones I want because I have a very specific play style that I like doing. And if something says use this gun, I'm like, no, I don't want to use that gun. I want to use my loadout. And so I just won't pick it up.
I respect that because I hate that. I mean, I remember when Crucible bounties and Vanguard bounties used to give rep, and now they don't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why am I doing these?
And that philosophy of you'll get there eventually. Like every season, I have yet to fail getting to rank 100 for the season pass. So like I've gotten all the rewards and everything. So like not doing a single bounty for like 3 years and still getting to like rank 100, rank 200. Like,
right.
Yeah, you'll get there. I can guarantee it.
Next question. Titan Hunter or Warlock main. Now I play all three for the record, but I am a Warlock main. Don't let that influence your answer here. But what main are you guys?
So Warlock here.
Nice.
I have one of each just for the sake of like the completionist in me.
Oh, of course.
I need those gold borders on all of the collections badges.
Crazy man.
Yeah. Warlock is where I spend a majority of my time for sure.
Zor?
Warlock for me, for sure.
Oh,
Arc Warlock specific.
I love it.
You're
an Arc Warlock? I started
Arc Warlock. Nobody does Arc Warlock. Everyone's like, who's running well? And I'm like, you're going to get Arc Souls and you're going to fucking like it.
Wait. Hold on. Are you Tickle Fingers or are you Kamehameha?
Kamehameha. That's where I get all my damage from.
Okay.
That's I've got to have some. I've got crowd control. Trinity Ghoul does crowd control for me.
Okay.
So I've got that taken care of. I got ads taken care of.
Okay.
Need some type of damage, so Kamehameha works. But yeah, Arc Warlock. I have to laugh. I only have a Warlock and a Hunter. I had a Titan until one night I got so pissed at him, I deleted him.
The movement on Titan is outstanding. You can't deny it. The floof definitely gets annoying.
I love the floof. Myth will pick on me for this. I am the only Warlock, besides my wife, that uses Strafe Glide.
I use Strafe Glide. I use
Thank
Strafe
you.
Glide.
Thank you.
Just mainly.
Superior Glide is so
all right,
good.
now I don't want to start a fight, but mainly because you can hover forever. And on jumping
for days,
puzzles,
right?
On jumping puzzles, it's so
you
nice.
You just
to
skip
be
the whole thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to go around the corner, guys. Sorry. You guys can keep hip-hoppeting. I'm going to just go around the corner, okay?
Thank you.
I'm a very, very big fan of Strafe Jump, and a lot of people are like, fight me, but I don't care. Good. All right. So, okay. Now, You might be my brother now, Zor. All right. I like that.
That's what I'm here
I like
for.
it. I like where this is going.
Prove to myth
You know, you don't do bounties. That's okay. I forgive you. But, no, I'm just, it's all in fun.
I love it.
Next question is, what weapon in your vault will you refuse to delete and why?
I already know Myth's answer, and Myth already knows mine.
So for me, and I am so extremely happy I hung on to it now, especially. So I am a huge proponent for sidearms.
Yes. You see my avatar, right? With two sidearm in its hand?
I do. So I knew we'd get along, but no, one of the main weapons I use, whenever I have the opportunity to is Traveler's Chosen.
Yes.
But the one that I held on to that I kept thinking like, okay, this season they'll bring a reprise version. No, this season. Now it doesn't matter, is Breachlight.
Yes.
I have a Osmosis demo Breachlight that I put like 30,000 kills on way back in, season of the, what was that? Not season of the Chosen.
Was
Saint season.
Yeah, Saint season. They're the Saint weapons.
Where did you go?
Season of the Dawn? They were such beautiful weapons too. Nice and chrome.
Oh,
I mean, they look like futuristic weapons, right? I have an alt account that has all of those weapons it was just a dormant account and I'm like, Breachlight, suck it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Absolutely. The unsunsetting of weapons. I love it. What about you, Zor? What's the one weapon?
Myth, how many things do I have in my vault?
0.
What?
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing in my vault.
What?
That is a lie. I have one thing in my vault, and I will not delete it.
You need to explain yourself here. What do you mean you don't hoard weapons? What is wrong?
I do not hoard weapons. I don't like 9 times out of 10. As soon as I pick up a weapon, I dismantle it instantly.
Wow.
I'll glance at it and go, huh, that's a neat god roll, and just delete it. Like not even bat an eye at it. I'm a very specific play style that I like playing, and I've found what works for me. And I'm like, don't break what ain't fixed, or don't fix what ain't broke. One of those two.
I got you.
So yeah, no, I do. I have to laugh. I do have one item in my vault.
Oh my God.
And it's related to Myth.
Oh my
God. It is the one and only time that I've gone flawless in trials.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
And it's my Solar Scar Adept. Because again, I'm a sword user, and I am a specific type of sword user too. I am only a caster frame user.
Okay.
I don't use vortex frames. I don't use the uppercut frames. I only use caster frames.
Wow.
So as soon as I saw a solar caster frame, I was like, I have to have it. And so the week that was there, Myth, myself, and one of our close friends, we were like, we're gonna go flawless this week. And sure enough, we went. We only lost one on a mercy. But they had a horrible, like we of course we went through and recorded the whole thing and put a little montage together and, showed it to each other and all that stuff. But that is the only item in my entire vault is a Solar Scar Adept that it sits there locked and that's it. I don't even have my top slot. I only carry 2 weapons up there.
I'm learning so much tonight. Myth, what's your vault number, Myth? I got 597 of 600. What do you got?
So I am not as crazy as my co-host here.
Okay.
I do like to keep a very tidy vault, and I just went through and did a bunch of cleaning on it. So I am looking at 184 of 600.
Okay. You got your weapons that you like, and that's it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
One of 600. And if I could, I would put it on my hunter and then I'd have nothing in my vault. But the problem with my hunter is, her character sheet only allows her to use weapons from Mara's vault, and Solar Scar is not an awoken weapon, so she can't have it.
Wow. See, I'm a Crucible fan. I play 50-50. I played both. And, I'm always like, it could be meta. It could be meta next season, I'll just hang on to it. I swear I'll get rid of it next season. Just wait. Let's just wait and see, And then you have all your crafted weapons and stuff. And yeah, I'm just a Crucible fan, and anything you can get to get an edge in Crucible, I'm all about it. Cause I'm up there in age. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, and I need every advantage I can.
I feel you on that one.
I need all the advantages. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Fair enough. Next question. What activities do you guys prefer to do and most enjoy in the game, and why?
Anything with myth.
Nice.
Well, thanks.
That's my flat answer for that.
Yeah, definitely tend to be more PvE than PvP. Speaking for myself, I used to be a lot more into PvP a couple years ago, but yeah, we all kind of know what happened to that sandbox, and I dropped at some point and just never really picked it up again outside of quests and such that require you to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think probably favorite activities to do for me, definitely going to be the dungeons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I really, really love the raids as well, but the dungeons are this unique little pocket of easier, I should say, with a dedicated fire team, and they can still feel fun and have really interesting mechanics with that fire team. But I really enjoy the solo flawless chase for dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
So currently I have gotten all of them done with the exception of Ghost of the Deep for solo flawless, because that is a mountain I'm not sure if I want to climb yet.
It's a tough one. It's a long one.
That final boss is so
that's a
long.
tough spot to be by yourself.
Yeah.
That witch is powerful. And
Myth has slowly turned me onto the solo flawless thing. I've done a few solo dungeons. I did solo Shattered Throne and Pit of Heresy.
Nice.
And then the other day, I want to say it was like 2 weeks ago, I just randomly was like, well, I need to run a presage. Solo flawless that. And that's my only solo flawless on a dungeon.
thing I love about dungeons is those damn revive tokens you have to worry about in a raid. You don't have to worry about them in a dungeon, you know?
Don't have,
Your wife,
don't
no
have to
big
worry
deal.
about
Come
it.
get me, buddy. I'm
Yeah.
good, you know?
It's like old school D1 Nightfalls.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I miss. That's
Yes.
if there's one thing I miss from D1,
Yeah.
it's that system of revives that went on in the Nightfalls.
Speaking of what you like to play in the game, are you guys a completionist? Obviously, you're not a Crucible main, but are you an explorer, a raider? Obviously, a dungeoner. You like to do dungeons, but are you? What is your play style in Destiny? You said you played a lot of solo myth. Are you more of a completionist, or what's your main goal when you play the game?
Yeah, definitely. I completionist for sure.
Okay.
Like I was saying, I need those gold borders around all the collection badges.
Okay.
That has waned a little bit over time, over probably the last year or two. Just as, life happens, less playtime is available, and I had to kind of let go a little bit of like, all right, it's okay if not everything in the collections tab is, is highlighted. But no, I really enjoy the chase of, I guess the chase of either a weapon I really, really like. Every time a new season comes out, I'm always looking through like, all right, where are the sidearms? Where are mostly sidearms. Is it something that could replace something else in my loadout? And if it is, I will hunt that.
Got it.
But otherwise, it's just, I really am drawn to that sense of accomplishment and like power fantasy when you are completing some super hard piece of content. And when I will preface, when it feels like that is fair content.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy raiding as well, but I'm not a huge fan of like the master raids.
Oh yeah.
Because in a lot of cases, it doesn't feel like you are necessarily overcoming, no, I shouldn't say no amount of skill will make it easier, but it feels more like a numbers game than a skill game at that point.
It sounds like you like the challenge. Like if you guys like to do solo flawless dungeons, that's definitely challenging stuff there, man. You're creating your own content at that point, you know? So
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Zor, what about you?
I think I'm a PvE junkie. I'm a PvE junkie and groupie. Like I said, growing up playing video games, it was always, solo games. And I always hated that. I hated that idea that like I had to sit behind my friend and watch him play 64 while 64 is probably the worst example because obviously we had GoldenEye and Donkey Kong, stuff like that. But like, there was a lot of times like, he's playing Zelda on 64 and I've just got to sit and watch. Like I couldn't do anything. I couldn't participate. So that's why I say anything I can run with Myth. Like if it's any type of group activity, I'll grab Myth and my wife and we'll launch through it. Hell, these last couple of weeks, I've started doing weekly raids with the two of them and my son and a couple of other guys. And we're just like, we're just going to go run whatever. I don't care what it is. We're just going to go run something. I just want to do.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
All right.
Just be in it.
We had a community member a long time ago ask this question, and I've integrated into my normal interviews now. And is it if Bungie assigned you guys a small but versatile team that you could do anything you want to on Destiny 2, what would it be?
Oh my gosh.
There's so much.
I mean, you can only pick one. You can only pick one.
Shit.
Well, I don't want to be here all night. Come on.
Yeah.
Where do I start? Right? Hold on. Page one.
Right. Oh man.
Is it just more sidearm, Smith? Is that what it is?
Hey, I'm
well, of
all
course
for
it
that.
has to. Yes,
I'm all
of
for
course.
that.
Of course.
Check.
Yeah. Make Breachlight have Scorch, volatile rounds, or Jolt based on what its osmosis is.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. No,
This guy got big braids up here.
No, I think personally, because I am so invested in the narrative of this game, I think it would be really cool to explore, and maybe this is more than a small team, but explore some of the places we've only ever heard about, but never actually interacted with. Like I'd love... even places on the earth, Chicago being one of them, or on the more far reaches, and maybe they'll do this after light, Final Shape. Go see what is left of Reese, the Elixni homeworld. Go see what's left of Torbottle, the Cabal homeworld. Go out to I forget the planet's designation, but where Clovis Bray found the Vex on that, that star, light years away. Like and
Valentis 2048. I have all these random facts that stick in my head, and that's what, like, you talk about the dynamic between the two of us. The Myth will say something, I instantly, like a little Rolodex, just, that's what it is.
Yep. And I love you for it. But just expanding the exploration, as informed by the narrative we have already.
All right. Good deal. Zor, you want to add to that?
More bows, more swords, more dungeons, more raids.
I mean, you don't have anything in your vault, so you definitely need more of them. Don't hold that against you at all. It's okay. I'm not bitter.
Not wrong. I have to laugh though. Like my entire power slot is just one of each type of sword,
God,
each type of caster frame.
I love it. I like it. All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about the podcast. And we also have some questions from our Discord community. So hang in there. I've got to take my mandatory bathroom break. Right back, guys.
Yo, everyone, this is Sweaty Spooks from the Blueberry Lounge, and you've been listening to
Guardian Downcast.
Be sure to tune in every week to see how the guests will score the speedrun, and better yet, join the Discord. You just may receive an invite to be on the show yourself. Later, Guardian.
All right, now let's get to your podcast because I kind of ran into this podcast. I was on Spotify just looking around for Destiny podcasts and stuff, and this is a really interesting podcast. I mean, I listen to a lot of other lore podcasts as well, and some have come, some have go, but you guys have a really cool dynamic in this. Before we get to that part, why do a podcast? What idea in your head said, we need to make a podcast?
It wasn't ours.
It wasn't our idea. There is a bit of a story to this. So this is, I think it was Last Wish that we were running with our clan at the time. That group, this is the same group we did all of those runs through Season of Arrivals and such. We were all very well acquainted.
Okay.
And I don't remember what got us started, but if you couldn't tell, you get us spun up, we're real easy to just keep going on a subject. And somebody said something along the lines of, I wonder what the reason is for this boss, or like what the story is behind Shirochi or something like that. And we both just kept bouncing back and forth, and our conversation went far beyond the Shirochi boss fight, to the point where we were still talking about, the Last Wish raid in general and all the bosses in it and such by the time we got to Riven. And eventually somebody told us, like, guys, we need to do call outs. How about you just record yourselves and we'll listen to it later? And that's truly how it started. Originally, we were making these explanations for what was going on in the game for our clanmates. And it was, our initial setup was really, really poor.
Oh my gosh.
It was PlayStation chat streamed to YouTube that we would then rip the audio off of. Because knew nothing about audio at the time, and I still don't know much more than nothing about audio now.
I was going to ask you guys that if you guys had prior experience podcasting before, so apparently that's a no.
Yep, not at all.
We did all this kind of by the seat of our pants.
Yep, and eventually, we pushed that out to the clanmates. They're like, hey, we really enjoy listening to this, and we just had that idea of like, you know what? Let's just toss it out there and see what happens.
Okay.
And
if it's worth doing once, it's worth doing right. That's
right.
That's something my dad always said. And so that's when I threw that idea to Myth and was like, let's go pro with this. Like, let's start doing official recordings, like over Discord or something, like make it big.
Yeah. And we've bounced between some different methods on the back end for recording. We've, bounced through different equipment, all of that fun stuff. And I eventually ended up on the Podbean as
your
hosting platform.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I just figured out, like, all right, how do we go through and, click the box to connect to Spotify, connect it to Apple, connect it to whatever, and just see what happens. And here we are 2 years later.
I love it.
300,000 plus downloads.
That is
over
awesome.
the course of 2 years.
You guys do shout outs at the end of your show, and I love that your community emails comments to you guys. I love that you guys do that at the end of the show. That's so great.
We love seeing it. I think that was another one that I started suggesting. I was like, hey, like if we're getting feedback, like let's say hi to some of these guys. Like let's interact with our community. Like
absolutely.
It's again just looking at what other content creators like yourself do. Of like, well, how do we interact with our community? We're just kind of two guys that record once a week and throw it out there. Let's see if we can get some back and forth going. And so yeah,
it's a great thing. I don't even know how I don't even know. I think we got it. We probably took it from another podcast that did it too. So, I mean, a lot of inspiration. You listen to a lot of podcasts out there and you get inspired by it and you start getting ideas on how to do stuff. And yeah, it's pretty cool how it comes. And that's how we started our podcast. It was three dads. The communities, there was, I don't know if you remember a podcast called Dad's Tales.
I do remember that.
Yeah. JC Jesse, rocker dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Boost, KD, V. My God, all those guys, man. Stu Gotts. I'm forgetting Baroque Reaper. All those guys just were, I remember when I first listened to them, I went back and listened to every episode. It was like 50 episodes. I just went back and started listening to their back catalog, and you just get to know these people. And they were shutting down, and they said, and at the time we were in the Dad's Tales, Discord community and clans, and they said, why don't you and, Hazel get together and do a podcast? Cause we had some back and forth in the clan, just like you guys did, playing and stuff. And that's how we got started too. So it's very, very, it's very cool that we both started out the same way, because I never knew anything about audio or podcast or anything. And I started learning quick. YouTube University, right? So
Yeah.
Myth does everything. I have to laugh. I have to call Myth out for this too. He does all, like, we do local recordings and then I just send him my half. He does all the mixing, editing, everything. So
very nice.
he, as far as like prep work for everything that we do, Myth is everything. Myth does all the reading. He does all the Myth is king. I'm just here to bounce ideas off.
Well, you do a great job of that too. You do. And as a fellow podcaster, fantastic sound quality. Very good job, Myth. Very
Thank
good
you.
editing. I love it. I love what you guys do.
It took him years to convince me how to do the same, because like I was still using the little earbud from the PS4 as like my sound and mic, and he finally convinced me. He was like, okay, get a mic, set your gain levels kind of low, like you that way you can stop picking up the rest of your room, because like I have hardwood floors, so it's really echoey in here. And he's like, do this, do that. And I'm like, oh well, he knows what he's doing. Maybe I'll listen to him.
Yeah, I interview a lot of just gamers in our community, and mic quality is something that sometimes I run into, where guys are on their gaming headsets, and it's like anything else, man. Some gaming headsets are fantastic quality of sound, and some of them are like you're in a tin can. So there's nothing you can do about that. You just do the best you can. But the thing I love about your guys' show is it seems like Myth, you're more of kind of the researcher of the lore, and Zor, you're like the everyman. You kind of break it down to kind of confirm and kind of reaffirm or bring home the concept of the lore book or what you guys are talking about. Is that accurate? And was that the plan when you guys set up the show? Was that always the roles you guys had?
I think Myth just has a beautiful speaking voice.
That makes one of us.
as well as all of his different voice acting that he does.
You do voice acting?
Well, in the readings, nothing.
No, I like him. No,
nothing.
I like the effort. I've dabbled in lore readings, and it's not easy. So yeah, very good job.
It's not. I try my best, but no. As far as the roles, definitely,
I think we just kind of fell into them.
Yeah, there wasn't a conscious like, okay, this is going to be your bit, and this will be my bit. It just kind of ended up that way. I like the cadence we have found in that we have, and kind of harkening back to before, we have a very analytical approach, or at least I try to be analytical approach to the information presented. And then we have the more, like you said, the more everyday, the everyday player kind of, more reactionary, like, oh,
right.
That, like, what does that mean? And it gets me thinking about things that didn't come to mind for me when I was doing the initial, like, pass on research notes and stuff. I was like, oh, yeah, you connected some dots that just weren't even in my view. Where can we follow this thread? Where does it go? And so just that back and forth has been great, honestly.
Yeah.
I think part of it is like, I love listening to Myth. I love his brain. It fascinates me how much knowledge he regurgitates and retains that I have a hard time. I used to say I squirrel brain, but I can't spell squirrel. So now it's a goldfish brain because I can spell goldfish. But no, when I was in the military, the work that I did on the radars that I did, I would have to I'd have some lieutenant come by and I'd have to kind of dumb things down for him to be like, this is why this isn't working. And so like ever since then, that's kind of like I've kind of held on to that. And so when we go through some of these readings and there's some crazy big words in there, words that I've never heard before, and I'm just like, what in the hell even is that? And I'll make Myth go Google all day long. And, yeah, I love being able to get more and more people involved, because I know there's not a lot of, I don't want to say I don't want to say that it takes a higher education to understand the lore, but sometimes it can be really confusing what the hell they're talking about.
Yes.
And so to have just somebody just kind of on the back end going, hey, this is this and this is this. Here's a comparison for real world. there you go. And I think it helps a lot more people actually get into the lore
Right.
and kind of stay connected to Destiny.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point is, and this is what you, Zori, you really bring to the show is that it seems like you're reading the mind of the listener at the time. You're like, man, my mind is blown. Are you serious? That's what that means? Really? And I'm like, yeah, I was just thinking that, Zor. I was just thinking that myself. Yeah, I love that part,
I love
man. That's just some honest feedback. That is very, very cool to have in a show, man.
Myth blows my mind usually once an episode. And I always have, there's always some moment where it's like an epiphany, like a bolt of lightning has struck my brain. And I'm like, oh my God, that just opened up doors to all these other ideas and where this connects to that. And here's my string board in the background. And yeah.
Just some general lore questions here. Now, this is my selfish part of me wanting to know. It has nothing to do with the interview, but why is lore so cryptic in nature? Why do I have to go back and read the sentence twice? I mean, maybe it's the higher education thing. I did go to college, but I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, wait a minute. What did I just read there? What does that mean? Why doesn't Bungie just spell it out in plain English? I don't know. What do you think? Why is it so cryptic? It seems so cryptic.
Yeah. So I think there's probably a couple of potential reasons. I definitely agree. At times, it's like just say what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
But if I were to guess, I would think that some of it is maybe a little bit of CYA for future. In that, okay, if we're not super specific about something and we leave it up for interpretation a little bit, that gives us more room to play with it in the future if we want to go back and touch on that story thread.
Right.
The other thing is I think they really welcome community interpretation. When it isn't all just spelled out for you, there is this tendency for there to be, hopefully, very civil debate over different portions of what this might mean, or, this might be connected here, or maybe this means this. And seeing those conversations and those theories come out, for even just for me as a player, and sometimes a contributor to those theories, that's really fun to be a part of. And maybe they are trying to foster that intentionally. But I could use for a little more clarity here and there.
Yes. Amen on that. Amen to that. Yeah, definitely.
I think for me, it's a case of D&D.
Oh, yeah.
Like they don't want to they don't want to be so specific in their telling that it pigeonholes them into a very specific, exact thing. Like, now we have to do this thing. If they leave it broad enough, that kind of leaves the player up to an idea of like, oh, well, maybe it's going to go this way, or maybe it's going to go that way. Like, I don't know. Like, let the DM make his decision.
That's a good point. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, a perfect example of that, which has had very far-reaching implications in the game currently, is that the original 0 Hour almost wasn't made. That entire 0 Hour mission, if I recall correctly, Luke Smith said something to the effect of the ornaments for Whisper of the Worm paid for 0 Hour to be developed.
I remember him saying that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the entire quest line for 0 Hour was kind of where Mithrax was introduced into the game outside of just like a single non-hostile captain in a random mission. And
That's right.
That thread has been, now interwoven to the whole House of Light with the Elixni and like Mithrax and Ido, his daughter, and like this whole thing has spun out of that. And, just because the internet had some debates over like, I wonder if this Fallen that didn't attack us and like kind of gave us a salute as he left might turn into an ally someday.
I remember that original mission on Titan that started that.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that like you're on Titan, you're
trapped.
and it's you're trapped and there's a bunch of Fallen there and they kind of point at you and they speak in Elixni and then they let you out and you get to the end and it's a captain fighting a knight. And like, if you kill the knight and don't touch the captain, like the captain will stop for a second and look at you and he kind of stands and does the salute and then he transmats out and you're like, what the shit was that?
Yep.
And that had no anything to it until, like what Myth was saying, the internet went nuts with it and was like, oh, well, maybe that's a long lost cat. And then it spun into, oh, this is Mithrax. This is, the great, I guess I think of him as like like Luke Skywalker, like he's gonna bring balance to the world of Destiny.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, and so then he goes on and gathers in all the fallen Elixni into House Light after Aramis falls to with House Salvation, and now we have a whole set of Elixni who's willing to fight with us side by side.
Well, I have a couple more questions here from my end, and then we'll get into some of our listener questions. How did you guys get into lore originally? What was the catalyst that got you to dive into this vast expanse of writings?
So I have always been, speaking personally, I've always been really, really drawn to strong narratives, be that video games, movies, books, like that. What holds my attention more than a really awesome action scene is a really great story being told.
Character development.
Yeah.
It's crucial when I watch movies. I do movie reviews, and that's one thing that's one mark I have to check. Did they develop the character? Does it have a backstory? Yeah.
Absolutely. Does it feel like, there was payoff for all this stuff they went through?
Right.
No, absolutely. And a franchise that does something similar to Destiny, and in that a lot of the information of the story of the world is told on the items you get from that world, is all of the FromSoft games. So Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne. And I love those games. I have devoured those games and spent many, many hours combing through all of the different descriptions of items and trying to piece together what happened in the world that I'm playing in. And Destiny does this really cool thing, especially now. Maybe not initially, but now in the game, they do a really good job of telling the most immediate story, in a way that is consumable for everybody, and then having all of this really rich fleshing out of their world in these items. And so it kind of gives me the best of both worlds in that way, where it's like that drive to find more information secreted away on, the scrawled notes of some item is there. And then there's also a usually very strong leading narrative that's at the forefront. And it just, I love it. I can't get away from it.
By you, Zor?
I guess it's kind of similar. Like, I think of past video games. The best example to me is the Metal Gear or WoW. Like, you have a story that's evolving as you're playing it. So like each new game, each new iteration that came out was another piece to the puzzle. And Destiny was like that, but all the puzzle pieces were there, but they're scattered. It's like somebody took 1,000 different puzzles, 1,000 piece puzzles, mixed them all together and just threw them into a yard and was like, go find them. And, you'll come across groups of them and like, oh, okay, this is a neat little collection here. Oh, this makes 2 different puzzles. Okay, well, let me put those aside. And then, you wander around, you find some more and you're like, well, okay, well, what does this have to do with those pieces I found over there? And then you kind of start branching. And again, like a good goldfish or squirrel that I am, I will jump from thread to thread to thread to thread and be like, I don't know. Like by the time I got to the thread 15, I'm like, I don't know where I started with this, but I'm on this path now and just keep jumping with it. So yeah, I think between a good connected story for any type of live game or game in a series, I love being able to continue on. I hate ending things, and so like to have the next part of the story be like, oh, this is where it's going. I'm like, okay, I'm here for it. Like, let's go. Let's do this.
I love that analogy about the thousand piece puzzles, because that kind of is what I feel like the lore is sometimes. And
I mean, I cannot fathom how Myth does it, because like you're talking, there's lore pieces on guns, on armor, on different sets of armor across different season. There's books, there's grimoires, there's physical media now. Like, for him to connect and for him to be able to like be like, okay, like I'll throw out an idea like, well, let's do a show on the Fallen. Okay, well, how are we doing this? All right, well, let's start at the beginning. Let's just go chronological from the moment the very first entry we have about them. And Myth will literally go through and put all this stuff in chronological order and go, okay, this is how it happened. And then I get to enjoy it. That's like I said, I get to sit back and enjoy it a lot while Myth does all the work.
Yeah, Fallen 1. I remember that Grimoire card. I was like, okay. I got the card. Don't understand I don't understand the context of it, but okay, let's keep going here. Let's piece it together. Yeah. Speaking of that, since we're on that wavelength, would you agree that people who do not follow lore play a totally different game when they go through the campaigns versus someone who knows a lot about the lore?
100%.
Yes, absolutely.
And
if you're just to look like, I'm going to take a quick example here. And Lightfall's probably not the best one to pull from. I know that there's a lot of controversy swirling around that one, but if we look at just like Lightfall from start to finish, if you were just to do the campaign and have no context on anything, no idea who Osiris is, no idea who Callus was, like nothing about the Witness or anything, like to just jump into that and go, what is the purpose of, what are we doing here? And then at some point in time, you come across Mara and you're like, what is she? What is the purpose of this? And you've got guys like Drifter poking his head in it. You're like, I have no clue what the hell's going on here. So yeah, I definitely think it plays a completely different role of somebody who's, I wouldn't say immersed in the lore, but has a stronger lore knowledge than somebody who has no knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. I once I started getting into lore, I was like, wait a minute. I didn't even know that what that character did. I don't know any of the background of that stuff. And once I started reading about it, I was just, wow. I'll pull a note from your podcast. My mind was just blown. My mind is blown right now. Yeah, exactly. Okay. One more question and then we'll get some questions from our community here. Since lore is so deep in this game, how should new players get into it? I had a lore podcast on my Destiny Help Desk podcast talking about that very subject with a couple lore experts as well. But I'm curious what your take is on where should people start if they want to start learning about lore? Because it seems like it's just like you're diving right into the deep end.
Yeah, and it's difficult because there's no very clear set starting point, I guess, or to be more exact, there's multiple potential starting points. Right. Because it turns into like, well, do you want to know, do you want to start at the beginning of everything? Well, here's, the discovery of the Traveler by this race. Do you want to know the beginning of the Hive? Well, a couple millennia later, here's the beginning of the Hive. Do you want to just know about the Sol System? Well, many millennia later, here's the beginning of everything happening in the Sol System. So it is really hard to get a firm grasp on where to begin. I think for people that are looking for, I want the entire story chronological from the very first thing that ever happened in the entirety of the Destiny universe to the last, or where we are now. Mm-hmm. I don't know that resource, unfortunately, exists in a single consumable way.
I know where one exists in a consumable way.
Sure.
It's a little lore cast called Myths and Stories.
I was just gonna. Well, I was giving you an opportunity.
Self-plug. Let's go.
Zor hit it. Yeah.
You got it.
There you go. That's obvious, of course. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, even then, though, I will say that we don't necessarily present. Like, you can't start at episode 1 and get to episode whatever we're on. Yeah. And it's not chronological.
No, you guys jump around.
No.
Yeah.
I will say that there are some good videos out there that condense some of the history, but I don't believe any of them have been updated recently.
Yeah.
So like you have, I know Bife has the history of Destiny, which is a couple hours long. Yeah.
It's an 11-hour one. I'm like, wow.
We sat down and watched right before Witch Queen. We watched his 4-hour one, like the night before.
Yeah.
We just sat down as a family. We're like, we're watching this, and like, let's get kind of caught up. And that's what we did.
Wow.
Yeah. So I guess what I would say if it was a brand new player, they're like, hey, I'm enjoying my time in this. I want to learn more about the world. What I would tell them is start with the Soul system. Start with Golden Age to, now or wherever events are taking place that they are playing at. And then just start pulling on threads. Figure out like, okay, these awoken people, I'm really interested in them. What are they about? Now there's an avenue to dive further. Or maybe you don't care. You're like, awoken are just, they're blue people. I don't really care what their story is, but exos, man, I love exos.
Yeah.
And there's an avenue now to get into.
I like that. That's great advice.
Yeah, I will say a good resource for those not aware already. IshtarCollective.net has pretty much all the lore cards available on their website, broken down by book, broken down by season. Really, really awesome. They also have broken down by topic even. They also have a timeline that they keep.
That's nice.
Which they do keep updated, and it's still a lot of reading and it's still very abridged, but it gives a good, just general kind of, this is what's going on from the very beginning to the very end. So that has been invaluable for our work as well. We use Ishtar for everything.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Myth. Like, just if you see something you're like, I want to know more about that, just get on Ishtar and type that in. Like if you see the Brays, well, who the hell are the Brays? Go in Ishtar, check that out. Obviously, I never miss a chance to plug our podcast. We've done a ton of these breakdowns of, like I said, Myths. I know Myth's favorite is the Awoken. We have 24 hours worth of Awoken content that we covered from essentially the beginning of Mara's life till now. And we've done the same with Books of Sorrow, Fallen, Cabal, the entire Bray family, Clovis, Anna, Elsie, Willa. There's just so much in this universe. There really isn't like a clear, like if a new light just picks up Destiny today and starts playing, and he's res in the Cosmodrome, and then 5 minutes later he's in the tower talking to Zavala and Ikor, and he's like, who the hell are these people? And it can definitely get overwhelming. But yeah, I like that idea of see something that you like, pick it apart, start poking at it, and just start pulling those threads, and you'll start coming across all this super rich lore.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. Great answers. Hopefully that'll help some new Guardians out there that are looking to dive into it. Good advice. All right. I've got some questions from our community here, and Hades, one of my mods in our Discord, was just giddy when you guys are coming on tonight. And he has a couple questions for you. The first one he has is, what is your favorite little bit of lore? He says, I love the bit where Shax backhands Fellwinter's head off. What's your favorite bit of lore? A little bit of lore.
Oh man! Again, this is one of those, like, there's so much to choose from.
There is. For me, it's just Asher's line of just, scientist that he is, the first thing he did was shoot the damn thing. Or any time that, like, somebody gets called out, like, there's a time where, oh God, Myth, you're going to have to help me with this one. The lady who founded, the Neomuna colony.
Maya Sundaresh.
Mm.
There was a time that Maya was working with Clovis Bray.
Right.
And they were kind of sharing, and I put that in quotation marks, technology. And at some point in time, she realized that he was undermining her. And in the Destiny lore, she tells him to fuck off, like line for line.
I remember that.
It's in the Spire of the Watcher stuff. Cause that's where she was developing her her own kind of Warmind AI, but it wasn't a Warmind AI. It was her own little AI. And then he sectioned it off in there. And he, that was when Maya was like, get the hell, like, go screw yourself. Like this is it. We're done working together. I'll never talk to you again. Which then, funny enough, later on, Clovis is working with Amaya Sundaresh, which then Myth and I kind of deduced it's a Vex copy or some evil Vex clone of Maya that he was actually working with. So that to me would be
that's good.
My favorite.
Do you think of one, Myth?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple that stick in my mind. But the one, very, maybe unsurprisingly, sticking to the Awoken storyline, since that's just kind of forefront in my mind at the moment. There is a moment in those tellings that this is me being a little bit of a sap, but between Mara and Shir Ido, where, who Shir Ido, for anyone that's unaware, was the Queen's Wrath before Petra, and very heavily, what's the word I'm looking for? Implied, thank you. Very heavily implied to also have been her lover, at least for a time. I was just going to
say that, but I was probably I thought I might overstep and say the wrong thing, so I was waiting for you to say it. Wasn't she your lover? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's two moments with Shir that really humanize Mara in a way that hadn't happened in the game at the point that Marasena and the Awoken of the Wreath books came out. Because she was always this very like mythical figure, had everything figured out. She was so sure of her own reality and her own plans would be successful that even an Ahimkara could not feed off her. And the one moment where she broke down was where Shur was treating her as a god, essentially. And, she let that mask fall away to tell her, I can be a god to everybody else, but not you. Because the minute you start to worship me, it's no longer love at that point. It's just worship of an entity above you rather than a connection between equals. And just that concept and that scenario really stuck with me throughout as a peek behind the mask that was Mara up until that point.
Yeah.
Marasena
is one of my favorite books. The story of the Awoken, just what they went through was just amazing. I think I read that in one of the lore books that Bungie put out. I think, talked about about them.
Myth never fails to find a moment to make me cry. Like I was starting to tear up there a little bit. Like
I remember that entry. He's talking about.
I love a good love story. And when Crow and Amanda's love story looked like it was going to be a thing, I was like, yay. And then they were like, no. And I was like, damn it. So like anytime I can find a good love story, that's.
I have another question here from Czar of Chaos Briggs. This is Big Briggs. If you could write a lore book, what would it be about and what would the title be?
Oh man.
The collapse. Everything about the collapse. That's
that
one area that it has so much mystery surrounding it. And we have so much from Savathun, like kind of pulling on our own strings of like, hey, yeah, I was there. I helped you survive. Like you owe me type thing. I would love to just write a book about like the moment the darkness started to close in on the soul system up until the witness left. Like, or I guess the darkness left. I don't know. The witness was here, so I have to say the witness. But like, the collapse for me, it would be the collapse. If I could write a lore book from start to end, it'd be about the collapse.
That's like the beginning of the Destiny story on Netflix. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, and the closest thing we have to that is I guess the only accounts we have of that are the accounts on Kraken Mare, which is the last days of Titan. and Ada 1 story, because Ada 1 lived through the collapse. Ada 1 was, the entire Black Armory, they lived through the collapse. They're the only people that did. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like that's the closest thing we have. And we know it was the dark time, but it's still shrouded in mystery.
That was a sad story too. Yeah.
It is. It very much is.
I remember listening to all those entries when that season was out. Yeah. I'm going to keep moving here because we still got a lot to talk about later.
Absolutely.
DGR Revan. Sorry, I did do that just to mess with him. DJ Revan. How powerful are the 9 compared to, say, the Hive Gods? We don't know a lot about the 9, do we?
Man.
I'm going to let Myth take that one.
Yeah, we really don't. And some of that is by their own design, and some of that is because they don't have a way to tell us about themselves. So to answer the question, as far as a power scale goes, I think in martial power, the Hive Gods have more of an immediate threat, where in like overall affect the solar system power, the 9 probably have them beat there. So the 9 are the kind of collective consciousnesses of the planets of the solar system.
Oh, okay.
And they are entities so detached from our reality. It's this idea of like, how would a alien being from an alternate dimension that operates, in like 5 dimensions communicate with beings that operate in only 3 or 4 dimensions? And so a lot of the reason we don't have information about them is because they don't really have a way to communicate, because they truly don't understand our reality. And that's what the emissary is for, is to be that bridge between. But we've seen some examples of their power. We know that a member of the 9, it cloaked all of Gaul's invading force, and that's why we didn't know about them until they were on our doorstep.
Well, it
was Pluto. Let's just be clear. It was Pluto that did that, because we as a planet decided that Pluto was not good enough to be a planet.
That was it, huh? Okay.
Yep.
That's exactly
that was it.
One of my mods, the Scarlet KM, had a question for you guys. Can you remember the very first holy shit moment that pulled you into digging deeper into a lore book? And what character are you thinking tonight?
Oh my
Someone
gosh.
listens to your podcast.
Holy shit. Shit. I have to laugh because we actually had an email recently where somebody was like, Zor, you haven't made up a random character lately. What's the deal? And I'm just like, I got you. I know there's the little janitor in the EXO facility that, like, when Rasputin like hijacked one of them, and this EXO just pops out of this pod, jumps up and hauls ass out the door, and some janitor's in there sweeping. He's like, do I say something about this? Is this my job, or do I just keep cleaning? Like, what is going on here? So yeah, like God, I don't know. That's a tough question.
It is. It's loaded. Yeah,
it is. Well, while you think of a character for yourself, in regards to the like that thing that drew me in, I think probably a couple of things. The first, just the Traveler in general, the mystery around this giant fear that has granted people powers but doesn't talk to anyone. And just being like, what is their deal? And trying to figure out, like, do we have any information about them? It was just one of the very first questions I had when I started getting into the game, and trying to dig and find out, like, okay, do we know anything about them? Because sometimes the omission of information is information in and of itself. And the other one would probably be the Taken King entirely. I've got to
agree with Taken King there.
That, especially the scene with the Awoken fleet attacking Oryx's ship, and he just obliterates everything.
Such a good scene.
It really was. But it was that moment of like, who is that? What did they just do? Like, holy cow! I need, like, where did this come from? I need to know more. And then they give us Books of Sorrow.
I was going to say, I've got to say that's my point of like dive deeper. Like, who is this single entity that just wiped out an entire fleet and left a hole in the Ring of Saturn? And then, like what Myth was saying with the Books of Sorrow, you kind of like come across pieces of it and you start realizing, oh, they have a whole religion, they have a whole Bible here. Like, what is going on here? Yep. Yeah, it's
I remember when I first got the very first lore book from Bungie, and I was, I didn't know anything about the lore. I just played the campaigns. That's all I knew. And when I saw the Books of Sorrow, I was like, wait a minute. This all happened before? What? Then I realized there's so much we do not know about this game. And it's a shame because it's not apparent to everybody. And it's so irritating because you want to tell everyone, do you realize what this person does or what they did? And they just look at you blankly like, I don't remember that in the campaign. So,
Yep.
Yeah. Vero has a question for you. A question for the show. Is there a character in the Destiny universe you wish had more lore surrounding them?
Oh man, Asher. No.
It's always going to be Asher. Okay, I got it.
It's always Asher. I love him. My favorite asshole.
I got a soundbite where I impersonate Asher with a pickup line. I tell you what, I'll put it in right here in the show.
Guardian, what's the probability that you will go out with me tonight? I was hoping that would be better.
Just for our listeners, just so they can mock me that I'm terrible at that stuff. But yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Yeah, if I had to pick one, and maybe my wish will come true here. We'll see. With the new, usually Trials gear, I really want to see more on Shayura and her fire team.
Okay.
Because that story is kind of like it had a wonderful little arc, and it kind of got cliffhung when Season of the Deep came out, where they're all meeting up with Sloane, who they thought they had abandoned for dead, and Shayura was approached by somebody. Seemingly, I think it was a member of the kind of revitalizing cult of Osiris. It's been a minute since I've read the card, but I remember they were approached by someone that seemed a tad nefarious in their intentions. And then we haven't learned anything else. So I loved Shayura's original story. I really want to see where they go with her.
Okay. Good deal. Did you ever come up with one, Zor?
I mean,
oh yeah,
Asher's always going to be my default for everything. Again, I love him so much, but no, I can't think of anyone like in particular that I'm like, oh, I need to know more about this. Like, again, when you start really diving into everything, like I have a tendency to kind of like gravitate towards the Braze.
Okay.
Just because I like that idea. Like, to me, that's like a really good bad guy, a guy to hate. Like, like Clovis himself, this egotistical, maniacal narcissist who's just convinced he is the greatest thing to the entire, not just like the human race, the greatest thing to the universe. Like, he is so convinced he is the greatest thing, and he will do anything to prove it. Including infect his own family with this disease that kills them.
Yeah.
Like,
what the hell?
All just to justify his own point. And I'm just like, I really hate you, and I really want to fight you. Like, but then like to see his granddaughters, to see Elsie fight so hard, to see Anna fight so hard. And I mean, we see very little of Wilhelmina, the third granddaughter, but I mean, to see them come up with their own ideas of like, no, yeah, we're scientists. We make the world a better place, but we don't own the universe. We're not the creators of the universe. Like, so yeah, I as much as we already know a ton about the Braze, I would love to see more. Yeah. I'd love to see the different timelines Elsie's dived into, I'd love to see the story of her and her sister continue on. I was so sad when they had to unplug Rasputin and he died. I was like,
that was tough.
We just got to know you.
It was a great season. It was.
It was good.
It really was.
Hi, this is Dimwee, and you're listening to Guardian Downcast. And while your choice of a subclass is probably questionable, just like your class choice, you're still probably a decent person.
I have a speak pipe here from one of my mods. This is Hammer Crasher 32. Let's see what he has to say.
Hey guys, Hammer Crasher 32 here.
Can you guys hear?
Just want to say thank you to Myth and Ztorials for putting out an awesome lore podcast. Really appreciate your deep dives into all the subjects and Myth's research and really going through and putting things together so that we can understand how it all links together. I thoroughly enjoyed your whole Clovis Bray in the Bray family series. That was fantastic.
Speak of the devil.
And I haven't heard a bad one yet. Love what you guys do. Keep it up. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Hammer Crusher.
Hits you right in the feels. I know. I love the Clovis. I know Myth loves the Awoken, but I loved the Clovis series that we did. That was our biggest series. When I kind of approached Myth with the idea of this, I was like, I want to do Clovis, but I don't want to just do Clovis. I want to do all of it. I want to do everything that has a Bray name on it. So that means everything with Clovis, everything with Anna, everything with Elsie, everything with Willa, everything with Siva, everything with Rasputin, which again, once you go to Rasputin, everything with Fellwinter, his, quote unquote son, everything with which once you get into Fellwinter, now you're into the Iron Lords, everything with the Iron Lords, the death of Fellwinter. Like it spiderwebs so quick, but there's so much in there. And still my favorite series that we've done.
Good deal.
I was really happy with how that one turned out for sure, and I love the Awoken, but yeah, Braytech was a lot of fun. I really want an excuse to do something like that again.
But for the Awoken.
For anybody, but I wouldn't complain if it was the Awoken.
I'm there. I love it.
I'm telling you, there's so much stuff about Mara that we still don't know as well. Like what she was off doing on her own. Like we know she was, fighting the witness. I don't know what that entails, whether it was mentally or physically fighting the witness, but we know she was off doing something from the time that we visited her, or she visited us. I guess we visited her in her throne room back in Forsaken, all the way up until, the post Witch Queen campaign. So you're talking 2 or 3 years there where she was off doing something and we still have no idea what she was doing.
Nice. Well, we have a new member of our Discord. Welcome. This is Cosme's Mate. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Cosme's Mate 91. What's something from the lore you'd love to see as the main campaign for Destiny 3 or future expansions?
Oh boy. I would love to see us go outside the solar system. I really want to see one of 3 places. Either Reese, the former homeworld of the Elixni, Torbotle, and like that's just, that campaign writes itself. Like showing up on Torbotle with Keitel and fighting to take back the homeworld.
I love a good fight
against the Hive, which are under the control of Shivu or Wrath. Like all the pieces are already there. I'd love to see that happen. Or going back to Fundament, the origin planet of the Hive, and like what has happened in the millennia since they left, and just I want that Outer Rim exploration campaign.
Like, are there still Krill there? Like, are there sub factions there still going on?
Right.
Mm-hmm. That didn't accept the worm. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it'd be anything with the Vex. I love, I love time travel, and I said the word. I knew I wasn't going to say it because I know that's not how Vex operate. But I love anything that has to deal with time. And so, Back to the Future, greatest trilogy ever.
Yep.
And so, yeah, so like the way that the Vex operate, that idea of like their network, they don't perceive time. Their network is all instantaneous. So any Vex that picks up a piece of information is instantaneously distributed through every Vex across all time and space. And it's all just a network of data, just upload and download. And so then they can then calculate, oh, well, we still have to operate within the physics of this reality. Now let's say, okay, well, we need X number of years to do what we need to do. Cool. Let's have those Vex start working on that. And again, for them, it's instantaneous. They instantly have those Vex start working on it, and then it just catches up with us. They just kind of, go the long way around, and it catches up to that current moment in time, and now they're fighting us. So yeah, I'd love to see more with the Vex, more with the Black Garden, more with the Infinite Forest, more with the Vault of Glass, anything Vex related. I'd love it.
Yeah, the Vex are one of the part of Destiny that I don't know a lot about. I mean, other than what I've seen,
they're still a mystery.
I have a feeling that's going to tie in later. I just have a feeling, but
yeah, I think so too. We've kind of like poked at the pictures that they've shown off for the different episodes coming after Final Shape, and one of them looks very Vex-like. And like Myth and I have this theory about Praedyth, like he's been trapped there in his little cell for ages.
That's true.
Maybe he's broken out. Maybe he's helping us. Maybe we finally do conquer the Vex. Because that's ultimately, I think the Vex are like the worst bad guy for the. I say worst bad guy.
They're the scariest, I think.
They are. They have one goal: exist. That is it. That is the entirety of their programming. Is exist. It is. And how do you fight that? How do you stop that? And in 99.9% of their simulations, they win. Like the universe becomes Vex. But they're still, scary. Because of paracausality, there's still that 0.1% that they don't win. They don't exist. So yeah.
I have a feeling we're going to see the Vex down the road. I just have a feeling.
I think so too.
Yeah. There's so many open loops there. Okay. Want to keep going here. I know we got a lot of show left here. I want to make sure we have enough time. King Tut. Question for the guest. My lore knowledge is at a level, I'd say complete and total noob. Anyways, a couple nights ago, I decided to order the Destiny 2 Grimoire 1-5 set, the lore books. Is this a good place to start for easily digestible material, or would you recommend someone that's a newbie like myself to start somewhere else first?
I think those books are great.
Those books are really good at giving you a snapshot of a theme or a moment in time in the universe. I would say and we kind of talked about this before. It's a hard question. If you're expecting to open those grimoires and be like, okay, this is going to tell me in 5, novels what is going on from the very beginning to the very end, that's not what you're going to get out of them. If you are going into it and wanting to be like, I want to understand more about the themes of the universe or around a particular peoples in the universe, then they're great for that. The very first lore book was one that was actually curated and kind of co-created by Mylan Games, who's a lore YouTuber. And I remember him talking about that, and his whole philosophy with that one was show like, oh, light is good, dark is bad, and then start to show some events that make you question that make you start to see the shades of gray in between that might exist. And he did that using the story of Dredgen Yor and Shin Malphur in that first book, as well as other lore pieces. So like that wrapping your head around those ideas and those themes is excellent for that. They have lore books that have come out since that are more focused on a particular race. I know there's one for the Awoken. There's one that's called like War Machines.
My favorite so far.
The Ghost Stories is really, really great. Ghost Stories is one I would say is good for a player of any lore level.
Right.
Because everybody's kind of on equal footing for what the heck are these little things that follow us around?
Right. I don't even think we know what the hell they're like.
They don't even know what the heck they are.
Oh, that was really eye-opening when I read that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one that
one's fun.
talks to the other one, and he's like, "Yeah, I remember a time." And the other one's like, "No, you don't. You were never inside the Traveler. We all just awoke. Like, what is wrong with you? You're just making shit up."
Yeah. Yeah. Those are great stories. I still remember a lot of those. I actually did a few lore readings on that book because I was so moved by the stories were so moving, some of them, especially the one where Osiris lost his ghost and where she sacrificed herself. Just reading that whole book was so moving about how it actually happened. I'm like, why wasn't this in the game? This would have been a great cutscene.
I know.
You know? But anyway.
I know.
I think that's part of that DMing for on Bungie's side, right? Like I think of Bungie or Destiny rather in the through the eyes of a D&D player and a dungeon master and a player. And so me as the player, I'm going to get a lot of info. The DM holds all the cards. The DM knows everything. And sometimes the DM's just making it up as he goes. Like he's just kind of reacting to what we're doing, but he'll leave breadcrumbs. Mm-hmm. And if we're smart enough, I say smart enough, if we have our eyes open enough to see the breadcrumbs, we can go follow them and go, oh, well, where does this lead? Where does that lead? And so like, I think to have even just little books like, and again, the more I think about the books, I really think that Ghost Stories one is probably the best one to kind of be like, well, let me start with this. And you can kind of poke through and you got they're digestible. I like that word. They're digestible stories in there, and then you can start kind of like pulling on threads from there.
And the thing I liked about the Ghost Stories too is that it wasn't like the Bray entries were just brutal to read. Oh my God. Those are so taxing on my ADD brain because I'm like I can only read that in bits. And one thing I will say to you as well, Tut. Don't read it all at once. Read one story and then digest it for the day and then come back the next morning and read another, it's usually 5 or 10 minutes. It's not long. That's what I would recommend. I did that with the Book of Sorrows. I did that with a lot of the lore books. I would just read it in like a page or two a day. And that way you didn't get overwhelmed. And then you can think about it during the day. Like, wow, did that really happen? No, that's really cool, So I'm a fan of the lore books because that's what got me into lore was when I read that Books of Sorrow and I was like, are you kidding me? How come I don't know this stuff? About the Krill and how they were deceived into thinking that the Traveler was going to kill them and annihilate them when actually he was there to uplift them. And the worms were liars. And that was they finally put that at the cutscene at the end of Witch Queen. But, it took a long time to get there, So.
Well, and I think that's what Bungie's trying to do that a lot more is to make more of the narrative forward. Like to have those, right. Especially those big things. Cause like the Traveler or the Hive or the Krill being betrayed by the worms is a huge plot point. And for it to be like, oh, well, the Traveler was showing up there to save them. Like the Traveler was going to save them. The Witness just beat it there. Mm-hmm. Now we see what happens when the Witness beats the Traveler to a place. Right. They create this race of undying. And it's so funny to think of the Witness kind of creating its own undying race, whereas the Traveler kind of did the same thing. It created the Ghosts, which then created the Guardians, our own undying race, to kind of like do its bidding, to be like, go conquer the universe.
Okay. Not to cut you guys off. I'm just I want to make sure everyone gets their question in. I've got a couple more questions here and then I will go out with a speak pipe and then we'll get to our TWAB for the week. Okay. This is from Phase Link. He says, I'm a big fan of Aramis. Unlike most villains, she's not all powerful, consistently surpasses her own abilities, has a really great backstory, and in my opinion, her dialogue is some of the best delivered lines in the game. Who is your favorite villain in all of Destiny?
So villain-wise.
No.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah. Villain-wise, I would have to say, and maybe this is an easy answer, but I would have to say probably Savathun. She has so many different irons and different fires, and her like contingencies upon contingencies that give this impression of being prepared for every outcome. It just, the way she is written and the way she is portrayed in the game is so unique And she relies a lot on her intelligence rather than like raw overpowering of her opponent. She outthinks them, and just that's a lot of fun to see happen in the Destiny universe.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't know that I have a favorite villain.
Okay.
I like them all. Like they all bring something unique to the table, and like just fighting one of them, it's like, okay, cool, we beat that guy. Now what?
Yeah.
Like,
give me all the
every one of them seems like it's another thread to pull on.
Yeah, I hear you. I totally understand that. One more question here from our Discord community. This is the original Jimmy Raynor. He has a few questions here. I'm gonna omit a few of them here because one's a spoiler. And the other one actually plays a part into our later conversation, which will probably be answered. So, this is kind of specific, but, would you say that Eris Morn could be fused with Teox after surviving Crota and even be an imposter? If not, where do you think she is? In the lore, she travels with the Traveler as if she was his pope or something. She appeared, I think, before the Traveler arrived, like the Ammonite and the Harmony. I think there are some more. The Harmony were communing with the Ahamkara, which also appear to be in the Traveler, by the way. Well, that's a lot of text. I read it the best I could.
That was a lot.
So what do you think?
So yeah, Teox is one of those question marks in the Destiny universe that I would love to see something come from or something explained. As far as like her relation to Eris Morn, I don't personally think there is any. I can't think of any evidence that would suggest that off the top of my head. It's a fun fan theory for sure. The idea of her kind of like proceeding in front of the Traveler is kind of cool. It's hard to say if she has a direct connection from what we know in Books of Sorrow, at least. Mm-hmm. She was born a Krill in the Osmium Court. So it isn't implied there that she, descended from above kind of thing or anything like that. She was just a member of the normal Krill who escaped. The Ammonite were the closest civilization to Fundament that she could run to. And the Traveler was
like
currently...
Moon of, if I remember.
Yep. And the Traveler was currently there kind of uplifting the Ammonite. And then she was picked up. I think she was picked up by the Harmony in like an escape pod, like in cryo, and informed them of the Hive incoming. So through the tellings of her, I never get the impression that she is a holy figure per se, or the equivalent of. But we haven't seen her like meet an end on screen or off screen, so I like to think she's still out there somewhere and will play a part later.
The two things for me about her is that comes to mind is, one, she was born a Krill, which the Krill lifespan is 10 years. So and we know that that cryopod had to have been a cryopod, and so presumably if she was just put back in, she's just in cryo. So I mean, for her to live out billions of years, like Oryx's reign from Fundament to our solar system was over 1 billion years.
Wow.
So, I mean, to put it in a time frame to give you kind of like an idea of how much time is passing there, it's a shit ton of time. And two, if I remember correctly, Teox was the great betrayer, right? Myth?
According to the court, Oryx and Jivarath and Savathun,
sure.
She was the one that, if I recall correctly, allowed the helium drinkers into the Osmium Court and kind of like kill their father at the time and do all that. So they have a lot of personal stakes with her as well.
Yep. So that's where I kind of with Myth, I don't think her story is finished, but again, the fact that she's just been kind of in a cryopod for over 1 billion years, was woken up by one society and was just like, no, to hell with you. Let's stick you back in this thing and send you back on your way. Like, I don't, in my mind, that doesn't make sense. Like, I guess again, that idea of the D&D thing, like, sure, have a random story thread to pull on, but I'm very much under the mindset that she's probably dead.
Yeah, I was thinking that exact thought you guys just had. That question totally went over my head. Thanks for answering that. One more from the original Jimmy here. Do you think Ace is the true child of Cade, and who is Cade's love? I know he's just throwing them all. He's throwing them all out there.
This is such a good question.
This is kind of the core of Cade 6 is the idea of Ace and Queen or his queen.
And Exo. Like it's both.
Right.
All Cade and just the idea of an Exo.
Right. Like, so for anyone not familiar, Cade left journals to himself, which he was not supposed to do, but that shouldn't surprise anybody. In between his Exo resets, 1 through 5, or I guess the first 5, it wipes all your memories. So he left these journals for himself to kind of inform the next version of himself as to like, hey, this is the man you were. This is the kind of person you were. Use this as your moral compass. And in there he mentions his son, Ace, and this unknown, love that he just referred to as his queen. And he doesn't even know. He admits later on, he doesn't even know if they were real. He just knows that he's told himself enough times that you're doing this for these people, that's what kept him going. I like to believe that they were real, at least at some point. Some of his very early journals, I think, allude to that. As to what their identities may have been outside of what he's told us, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah,
I'm kind of the same boat. Like
I love that mission. That mission was so much fun. I hope that Destiny or Bungie has missions more like that, like the scavenger hunt, finding all the cards, and was that?
Absolutely.
I love that one where you're going to the top of the tower to get the stealth back, but then you stumble across a random room and he comes over the cons and he's like talking to you, and you're just like, oh, there's more to this than even he's letting on.
Yeah, I love that. That was a great. That was actually something very different that Bungie doesn't normally do. So I thought that was really good. All right. Thanks for answering those questions, guys. We're going to go out with a speak pipe here, and this is from Nitro TJ.
Hey guys, Nitro TJ here. This is like take 900 because I can never do these in one go, ever. And I always ramble, so here we go. Myth, stories. Question for you two. The voice in the darkness theory. I explained upon it in my episode a little bit at the very end. Not all of it actually came out into the podcast, but my question is, can you guys point to a few lore entries or maybe expand upon the idea of the witness not actually being the voice in the dark like we see at the end of Shadowkeep, but the witness being a pawn, I guess would be the best way to describe that. The witness being a pawn and the voice in the darkness being an entirely different entity and being, quote, I guess, quote, the darkness. I guess that's how you would say that. But, yeah, my question is that. Is there any validation to this voice in the darkness theory that you guys have? Love your guys' content. Please keep making more. I need it. I have too much stuff to catch up on before Final Shape. And I know you guys I think you guys just announced that you were taking a break until Final Shape. I think. I can't remember if y'all did that or not, or how y'all were going to do that, but.
Just a small break.
Yeah. You guys are awesome. Please continue, keep doing what you're doing. You guys make it a lot easier for me to understand the lore, and it helps so much, and I enjoy the game much more because of that. Gator, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. I miss you, buddy. We need to raid here soon. I need to get on Destiny here soon, because I haven't even touched the new shenanigans after they put in with the April update with, I can't remember what it's called. It's like, starts with an M, I think. I haven't even done any of that. But I did see that there's 2 Rooks now, and I want to do it because that sounds terrifying and fun.
Yeah.
And I want to get kicked off the map multiple times. All right. I guess I'll stop rambling on. You guys heard my question like 30 minutes ago. I'm sorry. See y'all.
Yeah, when I had Nitro TJ on the show, you know how I met this guy? Or how he found out about my podcast? I was in a Four Rivers barbecue place in Longwood, Florida. He was coming home from he's into motocross. He does the motocross racing professionally. He was actually there eating, and one of the servers at behind the counter said something about Destiny. I said, "Oh, here's my card. I have a Destiny podcast." And he heard me say that, and that's how he was on our show and everything. So it's funny how things work out sometimes. What do you guys think?
That's awesome.
What do you guys think about his question?
This is straight myth. Myth. I have fought Myth on this tooth and nail, and he has finally converted me. Myth, do it.
Ish. All right. So
99-1, right? 99%, 1%. That's where I'm at right now.
So I will preface, as I have done in our episodes, where I have gone on this wild ass theory. Spinfoil hat. This is all 100% just theory crafting on my part. But with that being said, the idea that I have kind of come to, reading through a couple different entries, is that there is perhaps the Witness doing everything the Witness is doing, and then this other entity. And that other entity, which we've just kind of come to call the Voice in the Dark, being separate with its own agenda from the Witness. And there's a couple different pieces that kind of have gotten me going that way. The first is a decent amount of unveiling, and we'll, I assume, dive into some of this more later, but
yeah, we will.
taking the Asa cutscene and some of the things she said around the Witness's origin, and then comparing that to unveiling, and the idea that the Witness may have had a vision of the beginning of the universe, and that's where the unveiling lore book comes from, tells me that something else created everything. We also learn from that cutscene, as well as stuff that's just happened in Lightfall, and as we have understood more about Light and Dark, that Light and Dark are just forces within the universe, the same way gravity is, the same way, electromagnetic energy is. So the Witness is not the darkness as far as like the source of this energy. They are just a very adept user of it. And that something, according to Unveiling at least, created that energy. And there's like the scene in Shadowkeep where we're talking to that mirror of ourself, mirrors the scene that the Kentark 3 had. We just had an episode about this a couple weeks ago, where they're talking to mirrors of themselves. And the idea that those mirrors with the Kentark 3 offer memory wipes. So the one surviving member of the Kentark 3 talks to their double and asks them, "Make me forget my fire team." And they do it. They oblige. And they wipe their memory, and they don't learn about what happened until much later on. And the ultimate thing that I come back to is, why would the Witness care? Why would they care to do that? What are they achieving by wiping the memory of a random guardian in the Garden of Salvation? And if the answer is, well, nothing, then is it them doing it? And just some tonal shifts between Unveiling and Books of Sorrow and the Inspiral lore book, where the darkness is being presented with a voice and with a dialogue cadence that is very different than anything we have seen from them in game. Makes me wonder if maybe it's not the same person.
This is why I love his analytical brain. He finds those little points where he's like, well, this is why. And that's what's got me onto his side of like the 99%. Yeah, the voice in the darkness is another entity, but there's 1% that makes me pause. And that 1% is, and again, it could be in-game dialogue. It could be the characters in the game don't realize that there might be two entities. But if you start up a brand new character and you play through the opening cutscenes and stuff like that, the dialogue in there is everyone like Zavala, Ikora, all of them are very much under the idea that the voice in the darkness is the witness, and they even say that a few times throughout those opening cutscenes. So I can't. I'm not gonna go 100% and say that yes, the voice in the darkness is another entity. I'm gonna stick 99 and 1. I'm gonna keep one toe in the other side just in case. Then I'd be like, aha! I knew it. It was all a ruse.
See, I have a question about this later. I have a question about this very topic later. So
perfect.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Nitro TJ. Thanks for your question, buddy. And before we wrap here, we have our signature questions we always wrap up with every guest we have. And these can be quick. It doesn't have to be. I know we had a lot of lore questions tonight, and those tend to go a little longer because you have to explain, part of your answer. This goes to both of you guys. Do you guys have any other hobbies other than gaming?
Yeah. So, just to...
Sorry, I know that was a total 180. But,
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to name a few that, come to mind immediately for me. And say I am a very avid archer. So whenever the weather cooperates, or I can get into an indoor range, I will typically shoot what's called Olympic recurve is the style.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy that. It's kind of my like zen out hobby of just focus on draw release.
Breath.
Outside of that, I do have a motorcycle, so I'll ride that when the weather allows as well.
Very cool. What kind of bike?
Yeah, is a Vulcan 900.
I used to have a Vulcan a long time ago.
Yeah, I love it. So
it's a great bike.
I am not. I'm very new to bike riding. I just got my my license a year and a half ago now.
Nice.
So, but
he's starting to pull me into it.
So
it's yeah. Well, I live in Florida, so I had to give it up because there's just too many crazies driving down here. But you're probably safer up there. A lot more open areas. So
yeah, safer from the people, perhaps not the roads, though.
Oh, well, that's true.
Of the weather.
I'm sure winter is probably a challenge. I don't even know if anybody rides in the winter unless they're really diehard. But
oh, hell no.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Vulcan, was it a Nomad? I'm trying to remember it was my second bike. I started on a buddy of mine it was one of my employees sold me his Sportster 1200. And I was like, oh my God, this is the ultimate convertible. I was like, I'm hooked.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Anything else you want to mention?
Well, as Zor has alluded to, I also DM our little D&D campaign that is had between myself, Zor, both of our wives, and a couple clanmates as well. And that's been a lot of fun. Is a very different type of storytelling that I had not been introduced to until
he tried to kill us this last time.
Okay.
He actively tried to kill us. I know he did. Don't let him lie to you.
I do not try to do anything to you. I just give you consequences for your actions.
This is true. But yes, but, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Zor? You any hobbies outside of gaming?
For a while there, I was doing Final Fantasy trading card game. I was going to tournaments, going to Materia Cups, until I kind of had like a slow shift of mental breaking of it. It was like, Jesus Christ, I can't keep doing this to myself. You can only take so many losses every week till you're just like, okay, I'm not any good at this. I need to walk away. So taking a little bit of break from that, but yeah, no, I go. I try to go bow shooting and gun shooting as well.
Okay.
Being a Texas native or I guess original Texas native and being in the military, that they kind of grow up around firearms and stuff like that. So I've collected several. I joked with one of my friends, we could shoot a new gun once a week from now till Christmas and we would not have repeats.
Wow.
I love it. I absolutely, all target shooting. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool.
But no, I also, play video games here and there and kind of hang around the house with my huskies and my kitties, my kitty cats.
I ask this question of just about every guest that crosses my path. I'll make this plural, dudes. What is up with those gamer tags?
Mine originates from the military. We were in line. It was my second deployment, and we were in line to pick up our NBC gear, which is nuclear, biological, chemical. It's a whole chem suit that you put on if you have one of those attacks that you have to endure.
Okay.
And so we're sitting in line and they've got tables of all the gear set up and we're sitting there and we're trying to think of the worst last name you could ever have, because you would get the shit of everything. You would have the worst. You'd have like all the sizes wouldn't fit. They'd run out of stuff. Like you'd get, sunglasses that were cracked or, a Kevlar with no chin strap or something like that. And we sat there and thought for a while and we're like, it's gotta be something with a Z. And I was like, well, Z-O something. And they were like, what about Zor or something? I was like, yeah, Zor, like Zori or Zorin or something like that. And then it just evolved from there. And so I've used Zorialis ever since then. Every character I created in World of Warcraft had a different variation of Zor. So I was like Zorethalon, Zorashia. One of my cat's names is Zorashia Shalashaska, which is a throwback to Metal Gear, which is what Ocelot's name was Shalashaska. She's a Bengal, so that kind of matches the Ocelot coloring. So yeah, that's mine.
Yeah. Mine is a conglomeration of a couple things. So it has gone through a couple iterations. This is the one that I'm going to have to stick with, I think.
Macabre!
Yeah, so originally my gamer tag was Macabre Myth. And that was because I created my gamer tag when I was an edgy teen. And I was playing WoW at the time, and there was one of the big renowned guilds at the time was the Macabre Guild on my server, and I just thought that name was awesome. I was like, all right, I'm going to take that.
That's how you get an invite. You just take their name. You have to invite me.
Come to find out that a couple years later, you start to think a little better of your decisions that early in life, and B, absolutely nobody, when they look at the spelling of macabre, knows that it is pronounced macabre. So I got a lot of macabre, and then eventually people just started giving up altogether, and it was either Mac or Myth.
Macrame.
And yeah. And so when they offered the PSN name change, I was like, okay, I need to do something. So I took the bit off that no one could say anyway. And then I needed to add something to it because just Myth obviously was taken. I was like, okay, well, I'm really enjoying the Soulsborne, the FromSoft games.
Okay.
And so it just kind of became a conglomeration of the two.
I thought you were a Jason Bourne fan.
That's what I was going with. I was like, I thought he was just Jason Bourne. He's like the world's greatest spy killer. Yeah. Like none of us even know it. He doesn't even know it.
Nice. I like it. 2 more questions and then we'll move on. What is one thing about you that our community may not know about you that you haven't shared already tonight?
I don't own a cell phone or have any social media presence.
You told me that at the pre-show. Yeah. I could not believe that. You do not own a cell phone.
Yeah. I do. I haven't owned a cell phone for almost.
How does your wife get a hold of you? Landline?
So she works from home.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
For a while there, I had an iPod. And so with iPod, if you have two iDevices, you can just use iMessage.
Sure.
And it costs you nothing. Literally just the cost of the device. And that's it. But then Apple decided, no, we're done with iPods. And I'm like, well, you guys are asses. So yeah, I just like, I have Discord. That's about the only Discord and PSN. That's about the only way I communicate with people outside of just going to someone and hanging out. Like, all my friends, like obviously my wife does have a phone. She has to have one for work. So it's paid for by her work. So
Sure.
we do have a phone. It's not to say that we don't own one, but yeah, I don't have one, and it's very liberating to not have a phone and not to have any social media presence. Like,
I was just gonna say, I was trying to look you up. I was like, am I misspelling
I don't
this?
exist. I have no Twitter. I have no Instagram, no Snapchat, no Facebook, no anything. I have zero. I'm a very old school guy. I feel like I again grew up in the middle of nowhere, Texas, kind of I don't want to say on a farm, but on acreage. And it's just I love the simplicity of that. And it's odd when I tell people that I worked in telecommunications and that I also don't own a phone.
Yeah.
They're like, wait a second, this doesn't add up. Like you worked in that industry, you know how this exists. Like, yeah, but I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I respect that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So for anyone that's wondering on who responds on our Twitter, it's me.
It's all Myth. Myth made the Twitter. He narrates it. He moderates it. He is, again, Myth does all the work.
Yes, I do poll for questions related to the both of us or whatnot. We discuss before I answer, but
Sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Myth? What's something our community may not know about you?
Yeah. So it kind of loops into hobbies, I guess. I am the one that makes every single meal in my household. So I'm very much
of these meals. I guess I've had one of these meals.
Yeah, you visited for dinner once. But I am lucky enough that I get to work from home at least a couple times a week, which helps out with that. And I have always had a draw towards cooking. It was something like my family was very big on home cooked meals growing up. My grandmother and great grandmother ran restaurants. So it was kind of ingrained into me that like cooking at home is just the way things are done. And my wife has many, many wonderful things about her, but she'll be the first to tell you that letting her anywhere near a stove is a bad idea. And so it is kind of, as far as responsibilities being divvied up, I'm just the one that makes dinner every night, and I quite enjoy it. So
okay, yeah, we have several members in our Discord that love to cook and are very skilled at it as well. So yeah, good deal. Okay, well, last question.
That's another thing, real quick. Myth is trying to get me in. Well, I say he's kind of got me into. I want to start baking.
Okay. I know enough to get in trouble. That's usually my wife.
That's where I'm at.
She learned how to cook because we'd be in trouble. We eat out a lot too, but we're empty nesters now, so it makes it very nice to say, hey, let's just go get something to eat. So
I got 2 more years before my son graduates high school, and then it'll be my
it's time to be a man. You're going off to college, so good luck with that. Yeah, I hear you. Okay, last question. Do you have a motto or mantra that you live by?
Ooh.
If you don't have one, that's fine too.
Yeah.
I used to growing up. I always told myself, no one controls you.
You react. You're the one that decides to react, right?
You are your own. You are your own destiny.
There you go.
No, you're the only one that can tell you what to do and how to react to something, and any consequence that comes out of that is of your own volition. So, yeah, no one controls you, I think, would be mine.
Gotcha. Myth?
Yeah. So not one that I can say I like live by and is ingrained, but in a similar vein, a particular thing that has always stuck out to me, it actually came from Destiny, is the line "Guardians make their own fate," and it's kind of in that same line of like, I I am the one that needs to make things happen for myself. I am the one that needs to take initiative. I am the one that needs to be in control of my own decisions and the consequences of those. Make my own fate.
Sounds good to me. Thank you, guys. Gentlemen, thank you for sharing your life tonight. I'm sorry, we usually have our Discord questions separate, but I figured since there are a lot of them are lore-based tonight, I figured we'd just move them all into the interview. I know it's a little bit longer interview than we're used to doing, Spo, but thank you for answering honestly on everything tonight, and thanks for sharing your life with us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Guardians, would you like to give back to our community? If you received any value from today's podcast episode and would like to give back, head over to our website, guardiandowncast.com, and select the Patreon button to see what extra perks and benefits you can get from the several tiers of membership available. If you would like to give a one-time donation, click on our PayPal button and follow the prompts. Our community runs on our membership, and we never accept outside sponsors or advertisers. We're Guardian Downcast. Your stories, your community, your destiny. When I spoke to Myth and Zor before we recorded today's show, I told them I wanted the listener to get two things out of today's episode. First, obviously, we want to get to know them and their podcasts, and we've done that tonight. But second, I wanted you, the listener, to understand exactly who is this big baddie, the Witness, and more importantly, why is it or they here, and why are they pursuing the Traveler? Many of us who are diving into the lore are realizing that the campaign story and the lore are so different. The campaign leaves so much out that the lore community has revealed, and I know we've agreed on this already earlier in the show, but this was a topic that I mentioned in the last week's roundtable episode, and it just seems so apropos here. But it just seems like Guardians who play just the campaign are playing a totally different game than those of us who understand at least a lot of the backstory of a lot of these characters. So that brings me to my first question, Myth and Zor. How badly was your mind blown when you first saw, quote, the cutscene from Season of the Deep? That damn cutscene that changed everything.
As soon as I saw it, the first thing I did was text Myth.
Yeah.
Send him a message on Discord. It's like, oh, we have to talk about this now.
Yeah. I remember that because I was having a very similar thought, and it's like, boo-doo-doo. I was like, oh, all right.
Oh,
same way.
good.
Same
He got
way.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah, man, when that thing came through for Season of the Deep, and Season of the Deep was this build up to, we're going to get more info. We're going to get more info. We didn't necessarily know what that was going to be or how, devastatingly world changing it would be. So when it finally arrived, the story that was told was so crazy. My very first reaction was like, holy shit, that was cool. I had did not expect that at all. My second reaction was, okay, but this changes a lot.
Yeah, it does.
It prompted questions about everything in the Unveiling book. It prompted okay, how much that we took for truth before is truthful or accurate. And it brought about this question of okay, where one of the big things with that cutscene that I think was really interesting, not only did it show us the origins of the Witness being this kind of precursor race, this race that existed before everything else we know in the Destiny universe. It also showed this race literally digging the Traveler up or finding it in this desert planet somewhere. And so it brought all these questions about okay, well, where did the Traveler come from that it ended up on some godforsaken planet buried 6 feet down? What's going on with that? And it just, it spiraled into this, we have to look at everything again.
It really did. As soon as it happened, I was like, Myth, we got to go over the Unveiling books. We've got to fine tooth comb that. We need to start pulling up every information we have. It really did prompt this hunt of okay, what does that mean? And like what Myth was saying, there's so many things there that just started to spiral real quickly into, oh my God, this changes everything. First, the idea that the race that existed, that first off, the Witness isn't just a person. It is an amalgamation of what is left of the original race, or what we believe to be the original race that found the Traveler buried underground. Mm-hmm. This race had a golden age. It had a golden age for eons, which we tried to like look up the actual definition of eon, and it says an immeasurable amount of time. So like billions and millions and trillions of years that they had a golden age. Then they also found the veil. And all of a sudden there was this shift. And we kind of talked about it a little bit in our when we got the collector's edition book for the Final Shape, the physical book.
Electric-y, right.
Yep.
Entelechy, sorry.
Entelechy, yep. Don't worry, I couldn't pronounce that either. I have Myth, Google, all that shit. When we start going through there, they actually were using the Traveler's power. They were terraforming their own planets. They were just being. They were gods at that point. And sometimes their stuff started to fall apart, and they had their own little factions and their own little ideas, and like even within themselves, their own race, nobody really knew what this idea of the final shape was. And so, we talked about it in that book, they started killing each other off until they finally got down to just one group of people, and was like, okay, we are what's left, we are now the Witness, go forth. And we're gonna keep whatever memories we want to keep, and we're gonna erase whatever we want to erase. But yeah, that cutscene really did it just completely change everything for the Destiny universe.
Yeah, and in the unveiling book, I was doing a little research on this. It seems like, man, this is so wide open. It seemed like the Winnower and the Gardener were these two beings that created these universes. Just they didn't manipulate them at all. They just let it happen and just let nature take its course just to see what would happen, kind of like an experiment. Is this
absolutely
accurate? Or?
Yeah. Well, so accurate to a point, right, Viv?
Right.
All right. Well, wait a minute. Before you answer that,
yeah,
who is the Winnower and who is the Gardener? I need to know.
Oh boy,
I'm so confused right now. I know.
Accurate to a point. Myth. Go.
Sorry. I know that's super.
No. So, yes, to not get too far into the weeds, the ultimate answer is we don't know, but we have some pretty good ideas.
Okay.
Unveiling in general refers to this Winnower and Gardener and the flower game, they call it, the game of these entities creating universes, watching them play out, watching them end, and then creating another. What we know from that cutscene, and based on the source of the unveiling book in the game, because that source was messages received by Eris Morn via the artifact found at the end of the Shadowkeep campaign.
Okay.
She received these messages, decoded them, and each one was like a new page of unveiling. So presumably, unveiling was a story given to us by the Witness.
Okay.
Which leads us to believe that the Witness probably authored that book. Which originally the thought process was from unveiling that this was the genesis. This was Destiny's creation myth of this Gardener and Winnower creating universes. Like you said, they let them play out. And what happened was the universes always ended in the same way.
Right.
And by Unveiling's telling, the Gardener was dissatisfied with that. They saw the universe ending in this same way over and over, and saying, well, there's so many other possibilities that just aren't being allowed to exist because of this all-encompassing strategy that always, quote unquote, wins the universe.
Wait a minute. So are you saying the Gardener is the Traveler?
Well, this is where we, this is where we get into some things. So, by Unveiling's telling, it seems like these are beings above and beyond, our corporeal dimension kind of thing. Okay. However, with the Season of the Deep cutscene, we see that the Traveler was discovered by this precursor race that became the Witness, and they're the ones that named it the Gardener. And this now kind of reaches the main crux of the problem with Unveiling. It's presented as this story of the beginning of the universe, yet it's told through the eyes of the Witness.
It's one-sided.
Who is an unreliable narrator, one.
Sure.
Because they were not there to observe any of this. And they have, intentionally or otherwise skewed the information to fit what their ideas of how the universe should work are.
Gotcha.
But in general, Gardener in-game does seem to be used as another name for the Traveler.
Okay.
The Winnower is a little more muddy. The Winnower is what the Witness has named itself.
Okay.
In the Unveiling book. So it has kind of put itself on this pedestal of, I am the Winnower, that is the Traveler, this is our eternal struggle. And if you view Unveiling through the eyes similar to Books of Sorrow of like, this is perhaps a kind of religious text that the Witness has made to be like, I am so far above all of the mortals of the universe, and this is my grand purpose. It takes on some different connotations and is not 100% reliable as far as like being able to take the information at face value.
I think Zor called it a cult.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
Especially when we look again when we were getting these lore books, we're getting them in pieces, right? So like we got the Unveiling a long time ago, and 2-3 years doesn't seem like a lot, but we've had a ton of information come out since then. We've had the cutscene, we've got the physical collector's edition book, the Entelechy.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are pieces here that we're starting to see more and more of what life was for this precursor race of before the Witness,
right?
And the fact that there were cults within it. There were some that were like, yeah, we think that it's what we're doing is okay. Like we're okay having this godlike power and terraforming solar systems and seeing it all play out and just seeing it do its thing. They talk in that book about using the Gardener's power, and again, I think they themselves, the race that was the Witness, called the Traveler the Gardener. And again, if we take that same logic of the Witness is the author of Unveiling,
right?
Then all of that's being told through the same set of eyes. But again, now that we know more about how the Witness became the Witness, where they culled their own people down to a singular cult within itself, and said, well, that group over there doesn't believe what we believe, so cut them out. That group sort of believes what we believe, so we'll take some of their members, but we'll cut the rest of them out. That group over there is just completely insane, and no, just kill them. We're not even going to try to include them. And got it down to a singular set of people that then, went through whatever process it was. We don't have any type of description of that, to become the Witness, and then kept what memories they thought, or kept whatever thought patterns or memories that they thought were pertinent to the idea of the final shape. So, and even then, like, there's conversation between two people in the Entelechy book that they don't even know within themselves. They can't even decide within their own race of what the final shape is.
Yeah, and in fact, I keep thinking that there's probably someone in that precursor race going, wait a minute, I don't want to dissolve into the. Can we talk about this?
Absolutely, absolutely. There had to have been whole groups of people.
Yeah.
But again, this is what happens when you have a cult. Not just that, but a cult that lives for eternity. Yeah. You got to think how long these people live. They live for eons.
Wow.
billions and billions of years
That's crazy.
under this golden age, under this perfect utopia. And so of course they got bored. And that's
Yeah.
literally what kind of happened. They got bored and they kind of like wrote themselves into the history of Destiny. It was like, okay, well, now we found this veil, or we found the veil, we found the traveler. Now they do stuff like, okay, now we're going to become the witness, and we're going to give ourselves our own purpose. We're going to become the winnower. We're going to be the winnower of this universe. So again, even that idea of like, who is the gardener and who is the winnower? It's a tough thing to definitively answer, because at the end of the day, nobody knows. Nobody was there to see that same vision that the witness probably saw, or the witness's precursor race saw, of the beginning of the universe, of that, in the beginning there was light and all that stuff. So yeah. The short answer is, maybe the traveler's the gardener. Maybe the witness has at least dubbed himself the winnower.
Right. Okay.
But maybe there's more. Just like the idea of the voice in the darkness. Maybe there's more. Maybe there's something above there.
I got a question here. And I'm curious if you guys when you guys are reading the Unveiling book, did you guys think of that ending scene to Men in Black, where these aliens were playing with marbles that were universes? Did that ever come to mind? That came to mind when you guys were talking about this
moment. But that's exactly what it seems like.
It's exactly what I thought about when you guys were going over the book of Unveiling. I was like, this is just like the end of Men in Black, where we're just part of the universe. We're just a bag of marbles.
That makes a hell of a lot more sense, because you got to think, like, our universe exists as a if we take the Unveiling at face value, and we say this is how the universe was created.
Right.
Our universe it has its own laws of physics. It has its own rules that exist within it. But at the end of the day, was our universe the first? Or if we take what's in Unveiling at face value and say, oh, well, they specifically created this to input paracausality into our universe just to see what would happen.
Right.
Just to see how the game plays out. Like, just as a simple what if.
And that's why I was thinking the Traveler might be the gardener, because he's the one, I don't even know the pronouns to use here.
We don't know.
I would think that they're the ones who wanted to say, well, wait a minute, let's make them where they don't die. They can come back to life. Let's see what happens. Yeah.
Well, so again, now there's another point you're poking on too. Remember, the gardener, or the Traveler, has been doing one thing. Every story we have of the Traveler throughout the history of Destiny, it's always done one thing. It's gone somewhere, it's terraformed, it's given a golden age, and it's moved on.
Uplift.
The only time it has done something different is when it got to the Sol system. When the collapse started to happen, and then whatever happened at the collapse, again, we still don't have a full picture of that.
Right.
Something happened in the collapse that caused it to stop moving along and stop going to the next destination to terraform, and something caused it to release the ghosts.
Okay.
Or the ghosts were created. And every ghost that has ever created, that has ever existed, was all created at the exact same time. There's never been new ghosts created. They all came out at the exact same time.
Wow.
So whatever that is, we still don't have a full picture of what that even means. So again, if we look at Unveiling and we say we take this at face value, sure. Traveler's the gardener, witness is the winnower. There's your big bad clash.
Right.
But if you kind of look at it from the side, or kind of read between the lines, it's like, maybe.
Well, wait a minute. Now, if and this is the witness speaking here. If they're pronouncing themselves the winnower and the Traveler's the gardener, then where's the veil fit in here?
So that has been the primary question of most of Lightfall.
Sorry, I'm mentioning the talk here. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud.
No,
you're fine.
Absolutely,
these are the best questions. I love these.
So what we know from that cutscene, and just what we can infer in general, and this kind of gets into like, what is the witness's goal? Like, right. what is it that they ultimately want to do?
Right.
So from Entelechy, mostly Entelechy, but also just some of the cutscene and some other things, we know that this idea of the final shape, which you could replace final shape with like purpose of the universe. where does this all go? What does this all mean? Where does it all end up? And the idea of the final shape is something that has existed in that precursor race before they ever became the Witness. And some of those factions formed around different viewpoints on what the final shape could or should be.
Okay.
And when one group in particular came to the conclusion that, well, the final shape is the universe's purpose, at the moment, the universe doesn't have a clear, decidable purpose. So we, being that precursor, that cult within the precursor race, we are going to give it its purpose. We are going to decide every single molecule in the universe. We will tell it what its end goal is. But they can't do that with just the Traveler, because the Traveler is just control over
causality.
I shouldn't say, the light, and that's a good point to make a distinction on. The Witness is not the dark, and the Traveler is not the light.
That was my next
These
question.
are just these are just these two forces that exist.
Okay.
The Traveler seems to be especially attuned to light. We don't know for sure that they're like the source of it.
Okay.
But at the very least, very much in tune with it. But light affects physical, the physical parts of our universe. Electromagnetic for arc, nuclear for solar, gravity for void, those kinds of things.
Okay.
Measurable forces.
That makes sense.
The veil is kind of this partner to the Traveler. And Asa tells us that they are two halves of one whole, which is a whole nother topic.
Mm-hmm.
But the veil is what the Traveler is, but instead of being attuned to this light energy, it's attuned to dark energy. And dark energy is everything that is metaphysical. It is psychic energy. When we are using stasis, we are literally willing somebody to stop. And so this precursor race discovered the presence of the veil via some kind of innate connection between the Traveler and the veil. They found the veil, brought it to the Traveler, and made this discovery that we don't have all the details on, but when these two entities are put in the same place, are connected, you now have all of the power of paracausal physical manipulation of the universe paired to all of the power of the paracausal imagination. And they can now write reality to be whatever they want it to be. And so their ultimate goal is combine these two things together, and that will give us the power to decide what the purpose of the universe and everything in it is.
Now, not to interrupt, when you keep saying the word purpose, is that the same as saying the end?
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Okay.
In the eyes of the Witness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was go ahead.
Oh, it just like it is a bit of a nebulous idea thus far, because there hasn't been a stated, well, the purpose they've decided on is XYZ thing. I think maybe it's more accurate to say the Witness doesn't want any unaccounted for variables in the universe. They don't want anything to be chaotic or spontaneous. Everything has to be planned. Every moment of every atom's existence within this universe needs to be set and predestined.
Well, then that puts me that draws me to my next question. And Bife put a video out about this week. Why does the witness hate us so much? And why is it so intent on going into the traveler and doing all these actions that it's trying to do now? Is it because of wanting to complete or make everything make sense? Or is it something else?
Yeah,
I think I think it's mostly that. I truly think that the traveler or the witness, again, a race of beings that live for an eternity that then culled them down to this single entity,
right? Just
trying to find purpose,
right?
Like if you have a utopia, everything's provided for. A utopia is honestly unimaginable. It can't be nothing. There are no wants. There are no cares. There are no needs. Everything is met. Everything is done. Everything is set. And I think in the eyes of the witness, the universe hasn't reached that point. And so I again, thinking of the idea of this final shape, and again, it's odd to try to like think of can I swap out the word final shape with the end?
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. In the eyes of the witness, maybe. Like to him, that is the end. Like his end goal is to reach the final shape. But what is the final shape? Well, according to the witness, nobody freaking knows. Even the witness's own people couldn't decide that. The fact that one was like, well, it should be I should just be able to just tell you, reach the final shape. And it should be so knowable that you as another entity should just come across it of your own volition, that you should need no help getting there. And another one going, no. We have to show them the way to the final shape. And it's like, well, then it can't be the final shape because if it's the final shape, it's all knowable. So yeah, I think part of it is the witness lost here. When the witness got here the first time, they lost.
Right.
The veil was taken from them, hidden on Neomuna by Sabathun.
Right.
And that was it. The witness couldn't do whatever the witness wanted to do in the first place.
Right.
So the witness's goal, whatever it is, has to do with the veil and the traveler. And both of those things are in our solar system. So logic dictates whatever's going to go down is going to go down here. I don't think he hates Guardians. I don't think that, honestly, I don't think he cares. Like in some of the IntelliKey books, it shows how the witness has come across different races, and some of them, like, he's manipulated them into like vivisecting them and rearranging them and, making them whole again in the static state. And that's all those statues you see throughout the pyramid architecture. And then other races, he just bowls over them, just kills them outright, like doesn't even try to talk to him or anything. So it seems like even the witness is kind of like picking and choosing what it even cares about. And even those things are inconsistent.
Now I got a question here. It's gonna go kind of against what you just said. Because damn it, Bife, you got me thinking again.
Right.
If the witness can just snap her fingers and kill us, why is she making us suffer so much? Why is she toying with us right now? Why is she making us have this dread? And is it wrong for me just to tell this witness and this precursor race to just find a hobby if they're bored? But I'm seriously, but I'm just curious why the suffering? Is she just that's what makes me think she hates it. They hate us so much is because of the utopia kind of that we have. You just mentioned.
So I've got a couple thoughts on this. I am of the opinion that there is a hatred for us. So I'm a little counter to Zor's thought process on this.
That's healthy.
He's going to get me to switch. I know he is.
We'll see. But so we know based on Mara's interactions with the witness, she has stated in, I believe, it might have been in Spiral. I know it's one we read not too long ago. She talks about like she has looked beyond kind of the mask of neutrality that it wears, and there's just a deep seething rage underneath. And we get little glimpses of that, like in Lightfall with the discussion between the Witness and Callus, and like Callus just starts to bleed as the Witness looms over them. I think is a little peek at what's really going on behind that kind of very calm facade.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Witness wants us to believe that it's above everything, and that it is so far beyond our understanding that, it doesn't care about the lives of the insects kind of thing. But I do think that there is a deep hatred for the Guardians and humanity in general. And I would theorize where that might come from is that for all of its eons of time with the Traveler before that race coalesced into the Witness, it had study of the light and the dark. And in the Asa cutscene for Season of the Deep, she specifically says they found this hope in this new god they called the Gardener, but it was a silent god and never spoke to them.
I know where you're going.
And we see that same thing throughout all the races it visited. The Elixni, the same thing. The Harmony and Ecumene, the same. Like, it's never talked to anybody except us. And it doesn't talk very often, and it doesn't talk very clearly, but via the speakers, and we have an episode on that we did just not too long ago, about like the speakers did get messages from the Traveler.
I always forget about the Hawk messages.
I do too.
Yeah. And for all of the Witness's vast amounts of time with the Traveler and its want to use the Traveler's tools, the Gardener's tools, they refer to it in Entelechy, for trying to find that purpose for the universe, it never once spoke to them. And here are these little, in its eyes, pissant entities on this little mudball planet somewhere.
Right.
And
That
they've had
us.
right.
Yeah,
and they've had the
us.
Traveler for like 2,000 years, maybe a blink of an eye to the Witness.
Right.
And yet it's stayed to defend them. It's talking to them. And I think, honestly, where a lot of that rage may come from is just pure jealousy.
Yeah.
All right. See, Myth would change my mind. Now I'm on Myth's side.
See, I was already on his side I was hearing in the I think it's the Entelechy book where someone cries out. I don't remember who it was. Just maybe a human or someone's like, "Help me! Why aren't you doing anything to help me?" And the Witness, of course, and the Traveler's quiet because that's what. And I remember also at the end of the Destiny 2 campaign, the original one, where the speaker's dead, and he's trying to say, "Why won't you talk to the Witness, or talk to the Traveler?" And he goes, "I don't speak to the Traveler. I speak for the Traveler."
Yeah.
Remember that line?
One of the famous lines.
Yeah. Before he dies. But,
yeah. Well, right before he does a really cool line too, where he's like, well, "Why don't you just go kill yourself?" Like, the balls on somebody that's being held captive and like can easily be killed to just be like, spit in the captor's face and like, yeah, you take that.
I remember that line like it was just yesterday. But
so good.
Yeah. Sorry, I probably broke your train of thought, Myth.
No, you're all good.
Okay.
You're fine. All you've done is made me. Myth has now convinced me that I'm on his side.
Sorry, Zora. I was already on Myth's side on this one because of that one message where it seemed like the Witness wants us to suffer and then see our God not help us. That anguish.
I think you're right. I'm starting to. Okay, I'll go 99-1 again. How about that?
Yeah, and I think it's probably twofold. It's a hatred towards us, or a hatred fueled by jealousy towards us, towards humanity, and then a hatred towards the Traveler itself. And in in forcing humanity to suffer, it is, A, taking out that rage on humanity, and B, is also hopefully in its eyes hurting the traveler by being like, look at all of the destruction I'm doing on, this race that you chose for whatever reason.
Look at your helpless chosen type thing.
Right.
I'm curious if we're just a byproduct. Like if
it's possible.
If the witness truly is just trying to get at the traveler, and our suffering is just like like he maybe he doesn't care. And again, this is my 1%. Where we are just a byproduct. Like we just so happen to be in the vicinity, and we just so happen to be, the chosen of the traveler because of our ghost and everything. And yeah, maybe we are just a byproduct. But no, I'll go 99-1. I'll go 99% myth. I always leave one just in case.
You never know.
Just in case.
Bungie's
never know.
surprised us before. Yeah,
this is true. Rasputin shot the traveler, so that's. Yeah.
Don't you do that.
Don't you dare do that.
Well, with all that in mind that we've just talked about, and people now have a general idea of what the witness is trying to do and how they feel toward us and why their actions are trying to get the wanting to go into the traveler. Can you please explain these mind-bending trailers we're getting about Final Shape, about Upside Downs, and
oh my God.
I just am trying to put this together in my mind. What am I looking at here? Why are the trees why am I walking upside down? You know what I'm saying?
So it's a two-part thing. Remember what Myth said about the powers of light and dark.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The powers of light control the physical universe. And control is a strong word.
They shape
they
it.
deal with.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Whereas the powers of dark are shaped around the mind.
Okay.
If I have both of those powers at my fingertips, I can literally create a reality. I can create a reality where I say, gravity doesn't exist. Neat. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means I can walk on the ceiling. Because there's no gravity. Like I can walk, my whole world is an MC Escher painting. I can walk up the stairs. I can walk up the sideways stairs. Doesn't matter. Like that's kind of, to me, that's the entire idea that's going on inside the Traveler, which again, I think kind of alludes to the idea of why Cade is there. Mm-hmm. This place is so strong in both of these points, right? This point of light and this point of dark. And the only other time we've ever seen these two entities come that close together, well, I guess there's been a couple points, but the one that sticks in my mind is way back in the collapse when the darkness was closing in, and Mara is sitting outside the hull of the Yang Li Wei, and she sees one little tiny pinprick of light, and she goes boop and pokes it, and as soon as she pokes it, she enters the distributary. And what the distributary is it's the inside of a black hole. It's what's on the other side of reality. Like the entire place was shaped by her own mind, her own thoughts. So again, in that instance, she had the power of light and dark. She had everything of the physical plane and everything of the mental plane at her fingertips. So I think what's happening inside the Pale Heart is exactly what happened inside the distributary, and we're just seeing just what the witness decided to do with it.
I very much, my impression of the Pale Heart thus far, just through trailers and whatnot, is it is very Alice in Wonderland. It is access to this place was granted by combining the Traveler and the Veil. Combining light and dark. Again, that physical manifestation with mental envisioning.
Okay.
And essentially, what I'm expecting the theme of the Pale Heart will be is that if you believe something strong enough or think about something with enough passion, it will be made manifest there. And that kind of goes back to we've talked about this on some of our episodes with Cade. Like, as much as it may bum people if this is true, I don't think that is Cade resurrected so much as likely Ikora and our Guardians' desire for Cade to be there at this last pinnacle hurrah, that in the Pale Heart that can happen because the powers required for it are innate there.
Okay.
I know, mind blowing, right? Like, what do you do in a world of infinite possibilities where like the only limitation is your imagination?
And
like,
the new prismatic subclass makes total sense now because we're in that world now where they can merge.
That combination, that light and dark, that like, can I use a darkness grenade with a light subclass? Yeah. Sure, why not? Why? This place is infinite possibilities. Again, we as humans are limited to our thinking because we exist in this reality.
Right.
Everything we know exists within the physical plane, and every understanding we have of life exists within a physical plane. If we were to exist somewhere where that wasn't true, like kind of like where the Nine exist, who knows? Like this is infinite possibilities now. Like it's crazy.
I wanted to bring in a question from the original Jimmy. This is the reason I didn't want to ask it at the time. Do you think the Vanguard Dare will play into the part of the final shape? Can you? I'm oblivious to what the Vanguard Dare was. Do you remember what that is?
Yeah. So Vanguard Dare, the kind of the running joke with the Hunter Vanguard is no hunter wants to do it because it requires being in one spot and like being on desk duty essentially. Gotcha. Rather than out in the field. So the way they decide who the Hunter Vanguard is the previous Vanguard, previous Hunter Vanguard has a dare.
Oh.
And whoever either falls into that dare unwittingly or loses a bet, in the case of Cade and Andrel Brask, his predecessor.
Right.
That then, like, if you lose the dare, well, you're the Vanguard now.
Right.
You're on desk duty.
I remember that now. Okay.
And so Cade's dare was, hey, whoever kills me, you get my job, essentially.
So Crow?
Oh. Which, for a while there is like, well, it was Aldrin technically. So like, does Crow qualify? Like, how's that work? Now that he has all of those memories,
and guess where he went?
Yep.
He went in the portal. Oh,
he went
spoiler alert. It's season 2.
Right.
Sorry. You haven't done it now. I guess it's,
It's been out a little while.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Oh
my gosh. You got 2-3 weeks? Like, get her done?
You got 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, there is one more mission. I know there's an achievement that's named, or a triumph, I guess, named in the game. For whatever the final, there's always that final like hurrah mission that they have
probably right before the end of the season, right?
Yep.
So we know there's at least one more mission that's going to be like that final like lead in. So
it'll be on a reset probably. Yeah.
Absolutely. Probably that last week.
Yeah.
But yeah. So to go to the question specific, do I think the Hunter Dare will come into things? I think now is the time. If it's not if it doesn't happen now, it just isn't going to. But I could very much see a conversation between Paleheart Cade and Crow, and like there being some coming to terms with what happened, and maybe Crow formally accepting that mantle. Because we've seen some dialogue from him in the seasons of him saying like, I am sending out hunters to investigate this place, or like he's already kind of doing the Vanguard work, just without the title right now.
Right. Okay.
And I'm again, that 99-1 deal. I'm in the 1% that's like, maybe the Vanguard gets done away with and we have more of a council style. Now that we've pulled these other races, now that we've pulled the Cabal in, now that we've pulled the Elixni in, well, I think we might have more of a council type ruling body rather than the Vanguard.
Well, that brings me to my final point here. Now that we've talked about the Witness, I'm at least, hopefully we've prepared people to at least think about what the Witness is, why the Witness is here. Why did they hate us? Or not, Zor, or not.
Maybe.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen when we go through the Pale Heart? What do you think? How do you think this is going to end? Or is it just the beginning? It's wide open. I mean, I've speculated a ton of things and I throw a lot of crap on the wall and see what sticks. So I'm curious what you guys think. Wow. How's this going to go, man?
Myth is the great, what do you call that? Predictor?
Okay.
I've had a few that have landed.
I'd say he probably has a good background.
He accurately predicted about 90% of Season of the Haunt and Season of the Fallen about 3 weeks before they were both released. He put together the puzzle pieces and was like, this is what I think is going to happen. And he was pretty damn spot on. And I was just like, all right, I'm done making predictions. I'm out. This is it. This is the end of predictions or Myth. It's all yours.
Being that I don't predict anything based on lore, which is probably the reason why I'm always wrong. Now, just full disclosure, this is speculation. He doesn't know how the game's going to end, folks. Go for it.
Yeah, so I think Sora's being a tad generous in my favor. But yeah, so just kind of my vibe on where I think things might go. We know some things for sure from just Bungie interviews and stuff. That being that, like, they want to have the experience. They want to have a satisfying conclusion to the campaign, but the threat of the witness will be dealt with in the raid. Similar to Oryx is the comparison they have made. So I see ultimately we bust down the door of the Pale Heart. We get to the witness. We stop them from their rewriting of reality and maybe either like kick them out of the Pale Heart or force them into, I don't know that they have a throne world. It's never. I
was just going to ask you if this is Regicide all over again. I'm going to go nuts.
I mean, I think it's going to be similar. I think it's 100% going to be similar.
Okay.
We've already shown pictures of that tower in the Pale Heart, right? That's kind of like his. I think of that as like his Tower of Babel, right? Like the connection between know the earth and the heavens, the light and the dark. Like that's what I think it is.
Yeah, I see it going very similar to Oryx. We kick him out of the Pale Heart or out of wherever he can do damage, but we don't kill him outright at the end of the campaign.
Okay.
He's actually defeated in the raid in whatever form that takes.
Okay.
And I think under normal circumstances, we as the Guardians probably wouldn't be able to deal with the witness. We've seen in the cutscenes in Lightfall just like a finger flick and he divides a Guardian into multiple pieces.
Three of
and
them.
The ghost
Instantaneously.
Yep.
Yeah, all of those ships. And so I think this will probably be a case of like, because it's the Pale Heart, because we, the Guardians, are the only other entity other than the witness themselves that can control both light and dark, that this is kind of right place, right time where we would have the ability to even begin to be a threat to them.
Okay.
Because if we're in the Pale Heart, theoretically, we can do anything the witness could do.
That's where I think Cade's going to come in and play a big part.
Yes.
Because again, thinking to that idea of like the only thing that stops us is our imagination. Who has the biggest imagination in all of Destiny?
Yeah, that's true.
Cade freaking Six. Like he thinks up the craziest shit. And between it's either him or Savathun. Like we joke about this all the time. The whole of Destiny exists because of Savathun fuckery and Ahamkara magic. And so I don't know. Maybe it's one of those.
Well, Savathun doesn't have her throne world anymore, right?
True.
Right.
Savathun
she does have it, but
like I said,
she is a light bearer now. She is
so she can't use it.
Maybe.
Okay.
We don't know. We've never seen a light bearer use a throne world.
That's true.
Yeah, it is very uncharted territory for her. But I'm envisioning it going very similar to Regicide as far as there's a big fight where we're successful in repelling them, and that'll be the end of the campaign, and then the actual defeat permanently will be the raid.
thinking of Regicide, remember what we had post Regicide. We had like 20 missions that were like chasing Taken like crap all over the universe. All over Saturn, all over the Dreadnought, all over Mars, Venus, all over the places. The moon, with that one room. There's a circle room, and then it had the path down the center, and there's the Taken on the outside. Anyway,
man,
yeah. So like,
down a rabbit hole here. Because what about taking energy? I mean, orcs used to take energy, and there was a lore entry where someone said, I don't remember where it was. I was just digging in the lore. Said, can you imagine if someone greater than orcs could use the taken energy and just move entire populations from here to there?
I mean, he learned it from someone.
That's my point.
In the Books of Sorrow, it is shown he learned it from someone, presumably the witness.
But
what Taken still exists?
Her.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
What if it's the voice in the darkness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part.
Myths like I'm over entity. This. I said what I said.
Yeah. I do think it is going to be an ending. And I mean, I guess they've said it's the end of the Light and Dark saga, but I also believe that this is hopefully only the beginning for so much more that we can explore. And again, this goes back to the I want to get out there. I want to go see the
beyond the solar
system,
whole new planets. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. It needs a reset. Maybe that's Destiny 3. Who knows? But I'm going to pose this question to you, and all my listeners are going to roll their eyes right about now. What if the witness wins?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the true threat, right?
What if that's okay, let me rephrase it. What if the darkness wins? What if the collapse still happens?
Now remember, darkness is just a power.
Okay.
Dark and light are just powers. Those are physical.
Beings. Okay.
Not physical. Those are
tools,
energies,
okay.
tools. That's a fantastic word.
Okay.
Those are tools that we as beings known as guardians use. The witness also uses them. Savathun uses them.
And the gardener and the winnower use them, right?
Everyone uses them.
Damn.
They are just tools. So yes, the witness could win. Maybe the witness has already won. That was kind of like a whole point of Lightfall. It's like we lost,
right?
Like the witness did exactly what the witness wanted to do. It got inside the traveler, got inside the Pale Heart.
Yep.
Cool. Check the box. Done.
Found the veil.
Exactly. So like the witness has won, but what if the witness continues to win? And that's kind of like the question there.
I feel like we're going to be battling the witness in the raid, and all of a sudden someone or something is going to intervene. That's higher than us.
Savathun Ahamkaras. I'm calling it right now.
Oh, now you're blowing my mind.
Or Savathun riding an Ahamkara is just going to just fly in and be like...
Fungi, make a show on Netflix or no, put it on HBO Max because Sony owns you guys. There you go.
There you go.
They own Warner Brothers. So there you go.
That's
HBO Max. Done. And then think of all the people that will flock to this game that we've known about all along.
Oh, absolutely.
Boom,
they wouldn't know
Destiny
where to start.
3. I guess.
See, now I don't think of it in terms of like Destiny 3. I think of it in terms of like World of Destiny.
Okay, don't get me started. I said Destiny Online a long time ago, and everybody mocked me.
I think that is a true possibility in my opinion.
There you go, Kingsley.
Again,
you hear that? Can you say that again, Zor?
In my opinion, I don't think that a Destiny 3, I don't think a numerical sequel is going to happen. I personally think that it will become like a Destiny Online or a World of Destiny or Destiny Universe or whatever they're going to call it, and it's going to become this constantly evolving thing.
Oh, the comments Kingsley's going to put in the show feedback channel.
They're gonna lose their minds, and I know I'm going to catch flack for this, but again,
okay,
this is why I don't have social media. I don't have to put up with I don't have to put up with the fallout.
I wish I didn't have a cell phone now. Well, gentlemen, wow. Great insight, and I'm so happy you guys were able to stop by and talk with me tonight. By the way, I'm going to have the lore books, the links to all the lore books, including the one that came with the collector's edition. It's only on Destinypedia. I'll have the link to that. I'm going to have a link to their podcast. Their last 5 or 6 episodes talk about this very subject. So tune in to Myths and Stories and check out these episodes. They're so engrossing, and you guys just do such a great job on that stuff, man. So I just thank you guys for being on tonight. It was such a treat. I was so looking forward to this all week. And before you guys go, can you please plug your podcast? Tell everybody where they can find you. Not you, Zor, but
I was going to say, do it, Myth.
You, Myth.
He always does our sign off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so let's say we've got our Myths and Stories, stories spelled with a Z instead of an S, on pretty much anywhere you can get podcasts, Apple, Spotify. We're recently been uploading all of our old episodes as a backlog up to YouTube, so there's a playlist on YouTube. I kind of type our name somewhere and we'll probably pop up.
Do you have a Myths and Z Stories podcast YouTube channel?
We do.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yep. YouTube.com/.
He just found the button to activate that.
Yeah.
Recently.
To make it a podcast? Yeah, I did that too.
To have it go through and auto create videos for us, which is wonderful.
I love it.
Like I said, we're still learning this stuff.
I've
been doing this for 2.5 years. We're still learning it.
I've done almost 5 years and I'm still learning, man.
There's always something new.
There is.
But yeah, so otherwise, if you guys want to reach out to us, we love having comments and discourse. So we are also on Twitter at Myths and Stories, or we do run an email for people that don't want to go through social media. So just mythsandstories@gmail.com. It was great being here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, what a treat, guys. Thank you very much.
I always have to do a thank yous, and usually I thank whatever made up character I made up that episode.
This is perfect ending.
But for here, my thank you is going to be to you, Gator.
Oh.
I never dreamed in a million years that my voice would be out there in the universe, just spreading joy. And the number of comments that we've gotten back, I mean, even in tonight's episode, some of the shoutcasts that we've gotten back, I'm overjoyed. I'm smiling ear to ear right now. I can't smile any bigger. This has been a fantastic experience, and I absolutely loved every second of it. So thank you, Gator.
Oh, the honor's all mine, guys. Honor's all mine. I've been a fan for a long time, and we put a tweet out a long time ago saying, hey, who would you like to see on the show? And you guys got a lot of cries from our community that said, hey, you got to bring Myths and Z Stories. You got to bring those guys on. And I'm like, and I think I talked to you guys, a month or two ago about this. So it's been a while. We got this booked and I couldn't say anything, and it was so hard not to say anything.
Man, I was looking forward to it every day.
Yes.
And then just another minor deal. Yes, we are on just a slight break. We know everyone's getting antsy and excited for Final Shape, but Myth and I are going to have so many new stories with Final Shape. And we have so much stuff planned that we needed to take just a slight break, just a little breather for ourselves.
You got to stack those bounties, man. I mean, should I say
That's exactly what it is.
Sorry, my bad. No, I'll be there, man. I'll be there listening to every episode. And, they are taking a break, but this part of the reason why the timing was perfect on this, because this will hopefully generate some interest to go and listen to your episodes on this very topic. Unfortunately, we had 55 minutes to talk about this tonight, and that doesn't do enough justice to how deep you guys talk about these stories. And it's just fascinating. So again, the honor is all mine. I thank you guys for coming on tonight. And, it's going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait. Final Shape. I'm so excited.
Absolutely.
Me too, man.
Really, really enjoyed that. I hope you guys did too. And hope it opened your eyes up to what you may see coming down the road in the Final Shape. Before we go, I have some announcements for our community. We have our question of the month for May. And that is, what would you like to see or not see in a Destiny 3 or Destiny Online? We're going to draw one name randomly on our MegaCast. Yeah, I don't know if you guys knew this. Friday, May 31st, we're going to be live in our Discord with several of our Destiny podcasts in the Owl Sector Alliance. And we're all going to talk about what we're looking forward to in the Final Shape as we get geared up for it in the following week. So if you want to attend to that and see our beautiful faces, I have a feeling we'll have our cameras on and just have a good time. Oh, always a great time when we do a live show. Just click the event tab at the top of our Discord server and just put, yeah, I'm interested. I might be there. And it doesn't mean you have to be there, but just say, hey, I think I might check this out. And it'll give you a little reminder when we go live. And like I said, we're going to pick a single name. I'll have a random spin the wheel live on the show, and someone will win a copy of the Final Shape with all of the accompanying episodes. So if you'd like to get into that drawing, our question of the month channel in our Discord, what would you like to see or not see in a Destiny 3? And you can also share it on a SpeakPipe. You can leave us a voicemail. Just go to guardiandowncast.com and just click the send voicemail button. Or you can go to SpeakPipe if you want to go to the site directly at speakpipe.com/GuardianDownCast. Just want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon community. Quick shout out to all of our Tip Jar, Gatorade, and Fist Bump patrons, and our Dungeon Champion patrons. That would be Technical, Raph, Wicked Trinity, Deadpool 1 Merc. A thank you to our Raid Boss patrons Jealous, Frostbite, TL Tim, Amazing Taco King, Sith Daddy Fresh, and Nico, aka Jersey, for giving back to the show and community. Thank you all very much. That's a wrap. Another episode in our collection. We had a really great show last week with our 4th roundtable episode, so check that out if you haven't already. For our listeners out there, we have 251 other episodes with interviews from gamers all over our community. So if you're just finding out about us, take a look at those. And if you like what you hear, the biggest way you can help us out is tell a friend that plays Destiny about us. We don't do any advertising, and it's all word of mouth, so I thank you in advance. Next week, I have something a little different planned, so keep an eye out in our announcements channel in our Discord for more information. I'm also planning another roundtable episode for June, and let me know what you think of those episodes in the show feedback channel of our Discord, or you can email me directly at toddthegator@gmail.com or guardiandowncast.com. Thanks again to Mythborn and Zorialis for talking with me tonight. I'll have all their info and all their contact information in the show notes down below. You can contact me via Twitter X at Todd the Gator. Remember, that's 2 Ds and GATR. I'm also found the same way on Steam, PS5. Oh, and I have a YouTube channel, Todd the Gator. I have another podcast called the Destiny Help Desk where I've reworked it, where it's more of a singular topic in Destiny, a shorter version of Guardian Downcast, and it has kind of a teaching mentality to it. And sometimes I invite some friends along to help me out with it. So check that out if you haven't already. Destiny Help Desk. I'll have the links down in the show description as well. All right, before we go, we have our space lawyer Laz stopping by. And like I said, per my contract, I have to play his messages whenever they are posted. So Laz, what's going on this week?
Yes. I've missed several deadlines, haven't I? With my Better Call Laz segments. It's funny because, I don't adhere to deadlines. Deadlines are too conforming. It is not something that I or my firm can ever really get behind. And sure, that leads to issues. Tax season's pretty tough, but you know what? It is what it is. You move on. So I realize that I miss a lot of stuff. I get added into Discords and I write stuff down. And then Agnes Edna looks and goes, "What'd you write this down for?" And I forget because it's just how it works. Anyways. So, basically, the only thing that I would like to talk about today, and I'll have to dig through my ads later to form another message, but there's one that's been on the mind of a lot of people lately, this class action suit, and it's against Priceless Cloud. I've gotten a lot of complaints about the aggressive attitude, which is a nice way of putting it. The messages that I got were much more colorful, but I cannot say such things on these SpeakPipe messages. It's not appropriate. But yes, there is a lot of aggressive behavior going on here in regards to Priceless Cloud towards clanmates, towards friends, towards complete strangers, apparently, too. And it's just unacceptable. My clients believe it's unacceptable. And we're going to be approaching this, very carefully, because I know that this can be a bit of a tough subject for people. But you know what? it needs to be addressed. We cannot just simply ignore this sort of aggressive behavior. So we will be approaching this with some tact, as much tact as a space lawyer can use. We don't have much, so there's not much to go off of there. In other news, the countdown to the final shape is looming. So I know there's going to be a lot of you sending in a lot of requests for different sort of legal measures to be put in place because the witness is the one entity in the universe I don't mess with right now, mostly because it haunts my nightmares, whatever. So June 4th is rapidly approaching because the calendar this year is apparently just going super rapid fire, which I appreciate because, the year's too long, it needs to be shorter. So heads up for any future messages as I dig through my ads to see what other sort of legal disputes have been brought up, and I'm sure I'll bring them to your attention.
Thanks, Laz. I'll get with you next week on that. Hey, remember, as you're playing Lightfall Season of the Wish, hey, remember to take breaks. Get outside and touch grass, Rasa Ghul. Hey, everyone, remember, we're Guardian Downcast, your stories, your community, your destiny. And be good to your fellow Guardians in the Destinyverse.
Guardians are measured by their ability to come back from defeat. So stand. Fight!
Thank you all so very much for listening. And later, Guardian.
Good turtle.
Who said that? God, that was so much fun, man. I really wish I could have gone down the rabbit hole on a lot of like the IntelliKey book. That was a fascinating book.
That book blew my mind.
I really hope that folks tune into your podcast on this because, you guys just do a good job. You guys do a really good job explaining it. The lore community is so generous. I think a lot of these lore websites are all people who volunteer their time to put these entries in and stuff. And that goes without any kind of praise. And I'm just so happy that people are out there trying to explain this great world of the Destinyverse.
That's what we do it as. Like we get together every Thursday and just sit down, and I call it my therapy session. I bitch at myths for an hour about the world.
And our new slow Shogun. But the slow Shogun, Jesus, wow. Okay.